Amano Keita is an ordinary high school boy whose quiet life revolves entirely around video games, until a chance encounter pulls him into the center of unexpected relationships. Misunderstandings pile up as friendships, rivalries, and romantic tensions spiral wildly, all driven by his sincere but awkward love for gaming. What begins as a simple invitation to join a game club turns into a chaotic and hilarious story where every choice feels like a high-stakes game he never meant to play. The story began one day when Keita was buying several games at a game store. While he was focused on choosing which games to purchase, a beautiful girl named Karayan suddenly approached him and greeted him. Keita froze in place the moment he saw her. Since it was their first time talking, Karayan quickly introduced herself. Karayan was a student from Class 2A at Otobuki High School. Karayan was known as one of the most admired girls at her school. She was smart, attractive, and talented in sports, making someone like her extremely rare. Even though she was not a celebrity, students at Otobuki High School often regarded her as a fallen angel or the school's idol. In contrast, Keita's situation was completely different from hers. He was shocked that Karayan had spoken to him at the game store and quickly introduced himself as well. He was from Class 2F and attended the same high school as Karayan. Keita felt that he must have looked awkward and embarrassing, and he never expected Karayan to be so friendly toward him. When he became startled earlier, some of his items had fallen, and Karayan kindly helped him pick them up. Keita could not understand why something like this was happening to him. He grew extremely nervous when Karayan asked whether he really liked games. His nervousness overwhelmed him, causing him to answer without thinking clearly. Karayan picked up one of the games Keita had chosen earlier. The game was titled Golden Memories, an adventure simulation featuring a lighthearted fantasy setting. Keita explained that he enjoyed games in general. Even though he spoke nervously, Karayan did not mind at all. At that moment, Keita had no idea how to behave and felt as though he wanted to disappear on the spot. Keita explained that he liked games because they offered interesting content, and sometimes his curiosity led him to check the information on the back cover. Karayan understood and agreed that the back cover was indeed appealing. Hearing that, Keita became increasingly enthusiastic and started talking more passionately about games. After a while, Keita worried that his behavior might have made Karayan uncomfortable. Unexpectedly, Karayan laughed after seeing how excited he looked while talking about games. To her, Keita seemed genuine and ideal in his own way, which led her to ask him to join the game club. Meanwhile, Thasuku was spending time at a game center when Agori asked him for help. Agori wanted Thasuku to play a claw machine game to get a large cat plushie, and she pleaded earnestly. Thasuku asked her for money to play, but Agori reacted with playful frustration. Thasuku then tried the claw machine himself and carefully controlled the claw. At first, Agori thought he had missed the target, but it turned out that Thasuku was aiming for the hook attached to the plushie. Thanks to that strategy, Agori successfully got the plushie and was overjoyed. Agori admitted that Thasuku was truly skilled at playing games. Although Thasuku acted indifferent, he was secretly very pleased and felt proud of himself. Since Agori was his girlfriend, her cheerful and innocent personality made him feel grateful to be with her. That evening, Agori and Thasuku walked home together. Thasuku asked why Agori seemed so happy, and she explained that she was thrilled to have received the plushie from him and promised to take good care of it. Not long after, Thasuku noticed Keita standing alone near a park. He thought that someone like Keita would never be able to be with someone as charming as Agori and dismissed him as socially awkward. In reality, Keita was with Karayan at that time. Karayan told him that she was in the process of forming a game club, but had not yet recruited members. She commented on how polite Keita always sounded when speaking to her. Karayan explained that her friends and teachers always spoke politely to her, and even characters in games tended to do the same. She also shared that she had stayed up for 3 days trying to break a world record for fast completion in a game. Keita did not immediately believe her and assumed she must have been exaggerating or dreaming. It was only then that Keita realized Karayan genuinely loved games. She had never talked about this interest with her friends before. The real reason she enrolled at Otobuki High School was because she had heard rumors about a famous game club. Unfortunately, the club disbanded before they entered the school. Because of that, Karayan had been secretly working the previous year to revive it, and she was confident that she would succeed this year. Keita congratulated Karayan and asked what the game club was truly about. Karayan explained that the club was not just about playing games casually, but treating them seriously as an official club activity. That was why she was searching for true gamers, and that was how she found Keita. Karayan asked Keita to visit the game club next time. She then said goodbye, explaining that she needed to head home. Before leaving, Karayan suggested that they meet again after school the following day. While at home, Keita still could not stop thinking about the game club. He never expected something so big to happen in his life. and he even wondered if everything that had happened was nothing more than a dream. Not long after that, his phone received a notification. Keita immediately checked it, only to find that it was just a request for help in an online game. At the same time, a girl somewhere was playing a game while smiling softly. The next day after school hours ended, Keita remained sitting quietly at his desk. Once again, he received a help request notification from Mono. Suddenly, Karan appeared and startled him. Karan apologized for being late to meet him. Keita did not mind at all, since he was simply passing the time. Karan was surprised to learn that Keita also played browser-based games. Her position was very close to him, which made Keita nervous, especially because their classmates were watching them. Keita then suggested that they head to the game club room right away. Keita followed Karan shortly after, feeling a bit guilty toward Mono for declining her in-game help request. At that moment, Thesuke could not believe that Keita had become so close to Karan. Karan brought Keita to meet another member named Ichi. She introduced them to each other and casually mentioned that Ichi really loved playing puzzle games at the arcade. Ichi became embarrassed when Karan shared that detail. Keita was shocked to see how close Karan and Ichi were, since he had previously thought that he was someone special to Karan. Ichi admitted that he did not have many friends, which was why he truly wanted to be friends with Keita. Keita accepted Ichi's handshake warmly. Keita was also surprised that the school had officially approved the game club. Karan explained that their club activities were more structured and meaningful than people might expect. When they arrived at the game club room, Thesuke and Ichi were amazed by how many games were inside. Unexpectedly, there were already other students in the room. Karan referred to them as strict seniors and then introduced one of them, Gakudo. Keita and Ichi greeted him politely. There was also another senior named Nina, who stayed silent because she did not like being disturbed while playing games. Karan explained that Gakudo was known as a top-tier FPS player on a global level. Ichi looked unfamiliar with FPS games, so Keita asked whether it was his first time seeing one. Ichi admitted that he only really understood puzzle games. Keita explained that all the equipment in the club room had been purchased using prize money from game competitions. That was what Karan meant by their club activities being well-defined, since they earned recognition through gaming tournaments. Karan then invited Ichi and Keita to play together. Gakudo even suggested a friendly test of skill. They began playing an FPS game together, and Keita was surprised that they ended up playing several rounds. Even so, the highest score still belonged to Gakudo. Keita became exhausted after playing for more than 2 hours. Karan commented that at least Gakudo was holding back a little, because otherwise the new members might have felt overwhelmed. Keita acknowledged Gakudo's unmatched skill, especially considering how challenging the AI opponents were. Gakudo casually remarked that his opponents were still at a basic level. Gakudo was genuinely surprised that Ichi, who was playing an FPS game for the first time, performed so well. Despite being a beginner, Ichi managed to defeat Gakudo 3 times. Ichi explained that he was simply copying the movements he observed. Keita praised Ichi's ability and even suspected that Ichi had played FPS games before, but Ichi denied it, explaining that it truly was his first time and that he found it surprisingly fun. Karan also praised Ichi, and even Gakudo admitted that Ichi showed real potential. According to him, the ability to observe and learn techniques from other players was a fundamental skill for becoming good at FPS games. Meanwhile, Gakudo pointed out that Keita's habit of jumping around on top of vehicles made him an easy target, which affected the team's performance. Keita looked discouraged after hearing that. Karan felt awkward and explained that Gakudo tended to get overly intense when playing FPS games. She apologized on his behalf and suggested that everyone take a break. Karan, Ichi, and Keita rested for a while to recover their energy. Keita was amazed that Nina and Gakudo were still playing enthusiastically despite having played for so long. Karan explained that both Gakudo and Nina truly loved games, sometimes even prioritizing them over daily meals. She then asked Keita and Ichi if they had any special reasons for wanting to become gamers. Karan shared that Gakudo had been trained strictly by his father, who was a soldier, which explained his exceptional FPS skills. Meanwhile, Nina wanted to use her strength to help save a friend who had fallen into a dark place. Keita said that he simply liked games, nothing more than that. The atmosphere became a bit awkward, but Karan reassured him that his reason was perfectly valid. Karan then asked Ichi about his motivation. Ichi admitted that he did not have a specific reason. Keita initially felt relieved hearing that, but then Ichi revealed that he had lost all of his memories, which was why puzzle games were the only thing he excelled at. Keita was so shocked by the revelation that he accidentally spat out his drink. Karan asked whether Ichi and Keita already understood the Gamers Club in general. She explained that most of the seniors were basically game fanatics, so she asked Ichi and Keita not to take any harsh or careless remarks from the seniors too personally. Karayan also said that they did not need to be extremely skilled at games, because the true purpose of the Gamers Club was to help everyone grow into better gamers. That was why she wanted all of them to work hard together to reach that goal. Heichi felt genuinely entertained by the activities that day, and he became interested in joining the Gamers Club. Karayan then turned her attention to Keita and asked how he felt about it, wondering whether he was interested in joining as well. Keita hesitated and began thinking about whether he should sign up. At that moment, Yakuto and Nina approached him and showed their willingness to help him improve his gaming skills. For Keita, this was the first time he had made friends during his high school life. Even though the seniors were difficult to talk to at first, they were actually kind people, especially Karayan, whose warm smile left a strong impression on him. Keita felt that his school life was becoming ideal, surrounded by the games he loved. Unexpectedly, Keita ended up saying that he was not interested in registering for the Gamers Club after all, because there were no games in the club that he truly wanted to play. Everyone was shocked by his answer. The next day, Keita could not stop thinking about what had happened. He could not understand why he had rejected the invitation to join the Gamers Club, even though it had been something he once dreamed about. He felt foolish for turning it down. Not long after, his phone vibrated with another game notification from Mono. Just as Keita was about to start playing, Karayan suddenly appeared standing right in front of him with a gentle smile. Keita was startled by her unexpected presence. Karayan was surprised to see that Keita was still playing games on his phone. She expressed that she still wanted him to join the Gamers Club and strongly hoped he would reconsider. She even went as far as earnestly asking him again and admitting that she had personal feelings toward him. Keita was taken aback by this, especially since many of their classmates were watching. Karayan then reached out her hand toward him. Keita accepted the gesture, and as time continued to pass, the game invitation from Mono was about to expire. Fortunately, Keita managed to move his hand and accept Mono's game request in time. Keita felt relieved that he was still able to play the game invitation from Mono, but he soon realized that he had unintentionally ignored Karayan. Karayan looked extremely embarrassed, and Keita immediately apologized to her for his rude behavior. While continuing to play on his phone, Keita apologized again and explained that he could not join the Gamers Club. Karayan wondered if Keita was worried about not being skilled enough and assured him that Gakuto would be willing to teach him. However, that was not the issue. Keita admitted that he played games purely for enjoyment and not for competition. He apologized once more and explained that while the Gamers Club was truly amazing, he wanted to enjoy games in his own way. Karayan felt deeply saddened, as the situation felt like a personal rejection to her. Keita thanked her sincerely for inviting him the day before. Karayan found it strange that someone like Keita, whom she had just met, could make her cry simply because of his refusal. Keita encouraged her to keep supporting the Gamers Club. Overcome with emotion, Karayan began to cry and walked out of the classroom. Unfortunately, she slipped on a banana peel and fell, causing all the students to look at her, which made her feel even more embarrassed. Karayan quickly ran away from the scene. Keita wondered if he had made her upset. Not long after, Mono sent him a message to thank him. That day, Keita's classmates noticed Karayan crying after talking with him. They became curious about what kind of relationship conflict had happened between Keita and Karayan. Some of them had overheard a conversation about a gamer club that Karayan and Keita had been discussing earlier, which made them even more curious. They wanted to ask Keita about it, but Thasuku thought it would be pointless since someone like Keita did not seem easy to talk to. Thasuku himself started wondering what kind of person Keita really was. Mika felt that Keita came across as irritating, while Masaya believed that someone like Keita was not worth much appreciation, even though his attitude still felt annoying. Thasuku commented that Keita seemed to live without any clear direction. Their classmates briefly thought that Thasuku was getting emotionally worked up while talking about Keita. While the lesson was going on, Thasuku could not stop thinking about Keita. He occasionally glanced over, quietly observing him from his seat. During lunch break, Aguri approached Thasuku with a bright, cheerful expression. She sat very close to him, acting as if she was recharging her energy just by being near him. Mika asked whether Aguri really liked Thasuku that much. Aguri laughed and openly admitted it. She had brought a homemade lunch for him, shaped like an adorable kitten, although it had ended up looking rather messy. Aguri mentioned that Keita was becoming a hot topic in Class C because he had turned down Karayan. Thasuku was not particularly interested and felt that it was nothing unusual. He recalled the moment when Aguri confessed her feelings to him and how he had no reason to reject her. Aguri genuinely loved Thasuku, and she believed she would be happy as long as they stayed together. After school, Aguri and the others went to the game center. Thasuku chose to split up from them because the room felt too crowded. He decided to try a crane game instead. While operating the machine, he suddenly caught a glimpse of his reflection that reminded him of his past. The memory disrupted his focus and brought back thoughts of his gloomy middle school days when he had been isolated by his classmates. After a while, he managed to win a game cassette. Unexpectedly, Keita had been watching him the entire time. Feeling shy, Keita introduced himself. Tasuku admitted that he already knew Keita's name and asked what he was doing there. Keita, still embarrassed, asked whether Tasuku liked video games. Tasuku explained that he had picked the prize without really looking at it. The game he won was Paradigm of Pantasia, a very famous title that he had never tried before. Keita considered the game a masterpiece and strongly felt that Tasuku should play it. Keita became extremely enthusiastic while explaining the game in detail and highly recommended it. Tasuku responded that he did not need recommendations from Keita. Realizing he had gotten carried away, Keita apologized and then excused himself before heading upstairs. The upper floor of the game center was dedicated to video games. Tasuku grew curious about Keita's purpose for going there. Keita appeared to be avoiding the crowd. Tasuku guessed that Keita liked video games but did not enjoy noisy arcade machines. Just as Keita was about to leave, Tasuku stopped him and asked him to stay for a moment. Keita, clearly nervous, awkwardly clarified a misunderstanding about Tasuku's intentions. Tasuku simply wanted to invite Keita to play a game together. Keita had always wanted to try one of the video games there, but in the past, he had only watched the demo videos. Tasuku wondered just how insecure Keita really was. Even then, he still found it hard to believe that Keita had rejected Karain. Tasuku asked about Keita's relationship with Karain. Keita smiled, realizing that Tasuku had seen what happened that morning, and then explained the situation to him. Meanwhile, Aguri was spending time with her friends while waiting for Tasuku to come find her. Not long after, she noticed Karain standing near the crane game area. After hearing Keita's explanation about Karain and the Gamer Club, Tasuku admitted that this was the first time he had heard about such a club. He became curious about what made the games played in the Gamer Club different from the ones Keita usually played. Keita found it difficult to put that feeling into words. Tasuku sensed that Keita simply wanted a friend he could talk to about games, and Keita quietly acknowledged that this was true. Tasuku felt that Keita still seemed emotionally unsteady. Before long, Keita suggested that they start playing. Tasuku asked whether Keita wanted to watch the demo video first, but Keita preferred to jump right in. Tasuku confidently believed that he could impress Keita with his skills. They quickly chose their characters, and Keita picked the protagonist. Keita wondered whether Tasuku had ever played the game before. Tasuku admitted that he usually chose characters based purely on how cool they looked. Once the game started, Tasuku pointed out that Keita played much better than Aguri, since Aguri tended to press buttons at random. According to Tasuku, players like Keita were actually easier to predict. In the first round, Keita was defeated very easily by Tasuku. Keita felt impressed and acknowledged how skilled Tasuku was. Tasuku, however, thought that Keita's ability was still fairly low. They moved on to the next round, and Keita felt confident that he would be able to win this time. Tasuku found it strange that even though they were just playing a fighting game, Keita looked genuinely happy. Unfortunately, Keita lost again. Tasuku felt that Keita's skill level was unusually low, especially considering that even grade school kids these days tended to play better. After finishing the game, they walked out together. Keita felt genuinely happy that he had been able to play with Tasuku. Tasuku then asked what Keita wanted to play next, mentioning that it was not very fun if only one person kept winning. Keita became extremely excited and eagerly suggested playing more games. They ended up playing several different types of games, including shooting games, driving games, music games, and many others. After they were satisfied, they bought cold drinks from a vending machine. Keita was still full of excitement and asked what game they would play next. Tasuku wondered whether Keita was planning to try every game that could not be played alone. Keita felt embarrassed and avoided admitting it. Still full of energy, Keita rushed back toward the arcade machines. Tasuku smiled at Keita's behavior, feeling that it reminded him of his own past. While walking, Tasuku suddenly noticed Karain sneaking around nearby. He felt confused about what she was doing. As soon as Karain noticed him, she quickly ran away. Tasuku tried to call out to Keita, but at that moment the others arrived. Keita thanked Tasuku and hurried off. Aguri and the others approached Tasuku shortly afterward. Meanwhile, Keita ran off and Karain chased after him, still determined to invite Keita to join her gaming club. Later, Aguri asked where Tasuku had been, since she had tried contacting him several times. Tasuku apologized and explained that he had only just checked his phone. Suddenly, Tasuku excused himself, saying that he needed to take care of something. He rushed out, leaving Aguri confused about what he was really doing. Tasuku exited the game center and began running as he searched for Keita, without fully understanding why he felt compelled to do so. He kept running while scanning his surroundings. When he reached a pedestrian bridge, he spotted Keita and immediately called out to him. Keita wondered why Thesuku had followed him. Thesuku questioned why Keita had run away, but Keita explained that he had not meant to run away at all. Keita admitted that he simply felt uncomfortable being around Thesuku, especially since Thesuku was seen as someone popular. Thesuku became irritated by that explanation. He strongly expressed that being labeled as popular was an unfair assumption. He emphasized that if he appeared confident now, it was the result of serious effort. He explained that when he entered high school, he had worked hard to stop being seen as a socially awkward kid, and he did not appreciate being dismissed so casually. Thesuku believed that Keita saw gaming time as the most meaningful thing in his life and thought that simply enjoying games made someone look cool. Thesuku personally felt that taking games too seriously seemed strange, and he also viewed Karayan's Gamers Club as foolish. He pushed Keita to respond to his comments. Unexpectedly, Keita reacted strongly and demanded that Thesuku take back those remarks. Keita admitted that he often felt useless and that gaming was the only thing he truly enjoyed. He apologized and acknowledged that many of Thesuku's criticisms were true. Even so, Keita felt that Thesuku had no right to insult someone he had only just met. The situation became tense, and Thesuku felt uneasy as Keita continued to confront him emotionally. Keita could not accept Thesuku speaking badly about Karayan. In Keita's eyes, Karayan was a kind person who had the courage to take action, especially since she had invited him to join the Gamers Club more than once. Because of that, Keita strongly wanted Thesuku to take back his negative comments about both Karayan and the Gamers Club. Thesuku was completely shaken and asked Keita to calm down first. Keita finally realized what he had just done to Thesuku, so he immediately let go and apologized to him. Thesuku then realized that he had been foolish to compare Keita to his former self. Feeling guilty, Thesuku also apologized to Keita. He never expected that the person who had turned down Karayan's invitation would be so passionate about protecting the Gamers Club. Keita looked visibly awkward, clearly embarrassed. Thesuku smiled and said that he was heading back to the game center, then asked what Keita planned to do next. Keita decided to go home because there was a game he wanted to play. They said their goodbyes, but before leaving, Keita apologized for calling Thesuku a popular kid. Thesuku said that Keita did not need to apologize for that. He realized that his past self was nothing compared to who Keita was at that moment. After coming down from the pedestrian bridge, Thesuku ran into Karayan. She looked extremely happy and completely captivated by Keita. It turned out that Karayan had seen everything that happened earlier. Only then did she notice that Thesuku was standing right in front of her. Thesuku said that he understood and wished her happiness. Karayan quickly grabbed Thesuku and asked what he meant by what he had just said. Thesuku replied that Karayan and Keita seemed to be a perfect match. Hearing that, Karayan's face turned red. Thesuku truly never expected that the most beautiful girl in the school could fall in love so easily. He decided that he would fully support them and even thought it might be fun to tease Keita about it someday. When Thesuku arrived at the game center, Aguri had already been waiting for him for quite a while. She asked Thesuku to play the crane game and win a plush toy for her. Thesuku said that he had already spent a lot of money on games. Aguri suspected that he had used his money to get a plush toy for someone else. Thesuku explained that he had only been playing with other guys. Aguri got upset that Thesuku had not played games with her and complained that he was being insensitive. Seeing Aguri sulking like that, Thesuku decided to give in and do what she wanted. Thesuku and Aguri had been dating for half a year, but in reality, all they ever did was hang out together after school. Thesuku even started to wonder why he had ended up dating Aguri in the first place. He asked which part of him Aguri liked so much that it made her confess her feelings. Thesuku assumed that Aguri would say she liked his face or something like that. As expected, Aguri said that she liked Thesuku because he was cool. She also talked about how Thesuku had gotten a plush toy for her back when they were in middle school. Aguri had liked Thesuku since middle school, and they often played at that same game center back then. Thesuku was shocked to learn that Aguri had liked him since his dark days in middle school. He finally remembered that he used to come to the game center just to keep himself busy, then won a plush toy from the crane game and gave it to a girl who was there. That girl turned out to be Aguri. When Aguri found out that Thesuku was attending the same high school as her, she thought it was her chance to confess her feelings. However, by that time, Thesuku had already changed into a handsome and popular guy. Aguri had also heard that Thesuku liked fashionable girls, so she worked hard to change her appearance. Aguri noticed Thesuku spacing out and moved closer to him. Thesuku's face turned red as he imagined Aguri, the way she used to look back then. Thesuku decided to head home right away. Aguri invited him to walk home together, but Thesuku left her behind instead. He ran as fast as he could, confused about why his heart was racing whenever he was near Aguri. He finally realized that Aguri had been interested in him since middle school, and he could not understand why she suddenly seemed so adorable to him. The next morning in class, Thesuku approached Keita, surprising him. Thesuku said that Keita had been right, and that the game Paradigm of Fantasia was really fun. Thesuku even asked Keita to let him know if there were any other good games, and Keita happily promised that he would. When Thesuku returned to his seat, Masaya asked since when Thesuku had become close with Keita. Daiki also asked if Thesuku was in a good mood, because he looked unusually cheerful. Thesuku replied that he had just been really into playing games lately. One morning, while they were at the shoe lockers, Thesuku called out to Keita and complained about a free game from Nobe that he found boring, even though Keita had previously said that the game was fun. Keita asked whether Thesuku had actually played the game and grew curious about Thesuku's opinion. As they walked toward the classroom while chatting, Thesuku explained that at first the game felt like a horror-style exploration filled with mysteries and intriguing prophecies. However, halfway through, he became confused when the game suddenly turned into a fishing game. He felt disappointed because the ending only featured middle-aged men catching black sea bream. Thesuku could not accept how the game ended up that way, especially since Keita had recommended it. Keita simply smiled and maintained that no games were enjoyable. Thesuku then stepped in close and blocked Keita's path, drawing puzzled looks from other students nearby. He went on to criticize Keita's taste, saying it was strange and that the game itself was poorly executed. Later in the classroom, Keita apologized and shared his thoughts that even if a game was flawed, it could still have a certain charm. To him, that feeling was similar to falling in love, which was not always logical. Thesuku found it odd that someone as inexperienced in romance as Keita would talk about love, especially to someone who already had a girlfriend. Those words weighed heavily on Keita, even though he had not meant anything inappropriate. Thesuku then asked about Keita's relationship with Karain and whether Keita had been seeing her often since the recent incident. Keita admitted that he felt sad because he rarely got to meet Karain. Thesuku suggested that not running into each other too often might actually prevent boredom. Keita misunderstood and thought Thesuku was talking about a 3DS game instead. Not long after that, Keita received a game request notification from an account named Mono. He started playing, while Thesuku watched beside him. Thesuku asked why Keita used the name Suki on his gaming account. Keita explained that he preferred not to use his real name online. The name Suki was inspired by his mother's maiden name Tsuchiyama, and sometimes he even used the name Yama. Thesuku thought the reason sounded ordinary and not very exciting. He then asked who Mono was. It turned out that Keita had been friends with Mono since he started playing the game, and because of that, Keita felt close to that person. Keita thought it was fun to be able to talk with someone he had never met in person. Thesuku commented that Keita might need a bit of personal growth before he could truly enjoy a romantic comedy phase in his life. Keita was confused about who Thesuku was referring to, but Thesuku mentioned Karain and felt that if things stayed the same, their relationship would not progress. Keita began to feel that he did not measure up to Karain in any way. Thesuku quickly clarified that he did not mean to make Keita feel down. By personal growth, he meant that he wanted to help Keita move forward from being a loner. Keita was touched when he realized that Thesuku genuinely cared about him. Thesuku put an arm around Keita and encouraged him to try talking with a girl who shared his passion for video games. After school, Thesuku took Keita to his intended target in Class 2A. The girl's name was Chiaki, and she loved playing games just like Keita did. Keita resisted, explaining that he did not want to approach someone under false pretenses, but Thesuku continued to push him. Suddenly, Aguri appeared and reminded Thesuku about their promise to hang out together after school. Before leaving, Thesuku told Keita that he was eagerly looking forward to seeing how things would turn out and urged him to talk to Chiaki. Keita was startled when he noticed people around him looking his way. At the same time, Karain was lost in her feelings for Keita. She became flustered when she overheard Ichi talking with him. Ichi asked whether Keita had come to see Karain, but Keita denied it and said that he was not interested and did not have any business with her. Karain was shocked to hear that, especially when she realized that Keita had come to see another girl instead. The news deeply hurt her. Keita then gathered his courage, entered Class 2A, and approached Chiaki, which made Karain feel utterly humiliated. Keita tried to greet Chiaki, but she was completely focused on her game at the time. Suddenly, Karain arrived and greeted Keita as well. Asking what business he had in Class 2A, Keita admitted that he had come to meet a girl, and Karain nearly lost her balance upon hearing that. She wondered if he might have come for class representative duties or some other reason. Keita then remembered Thesuku's message encouraging him to be honest. Summoning his courage, Keita clearly stated that he had come to Class 2A because he wanted to befriend Chiaki. Upon hearing this, Karayan collapsed, and Keita quickly caught her, causing the surrounding students to gasp in shock. Karayan's face turned red with emotion as she reacted angrily and accused Keita of being insensitive. She then ran off, leaving Keita confused, while Ichi hurried after her. After that, Keita immediately greeted Chiaki. Chiaki looked frightened because she did not recognize Keita at all. Keita seemed unsure about how to start the conversation, but when he noticed the game Chiaki was playing, he asked whether it was Aegis VII, the game that had been released the previous week. From there, they continued talking at the bus stop, and Keita introduced himself to Chiaki. He asked whether Chiaki also liked the game. Both of them felt very awkward since it was their first real conversation. Chiaki assumed that Keita was a member of the Gamers Club, and she apologized because she was not interested in joining the club. Keita explained that he was not part of the Gamers Club either, and that he had also been invited. He then asked whether Chiaki had been invited to join as well. Chiaki shared that Karayan had invited her, and she had come just to take a look at the clubroom. Keita asked whether the club's activities matched Chiaki's expectations. In Keita's view, the Gamers Club felt far too grand for people like them. It turned out that Chiaki agreed with him. She admitted that she enjoyed playing games together with others and competing in a casual way, but she was not interested in becoming the best at any particular game. Keita was genuinely happy to hear that Chiaki felt the same way. He acknowledged that the Gamers Club was indeed a legitimate and serious club. Chiaki felt a bit guilty toward Karayan, but both she and Keita realized how closely their opinions about games aligned. Without noticing it themselves, Keita and Chiaki gradually became more comfortable with each other. After that meeting, they grew closer and began exchanging messages frequently. It seemed that Keita and Chiaki were more alike than Thasuku had initially thought. The more they talked, the more they became aware of how similar their tastes and sensitivities were, especially when it came to games. The games they played, the way they thought about them, and even their playstyles felt like reflections of each other. At school, Keita and Chiaki became very close and were often seen chatting in the hallways. Karayan appeared irritated when she noticed how close they had become. They enthusiastically shared their unique perspectives on games, but it eventually became clear that Keita was more drawn to characters, while Chiaki paid more attention to the music. This difference led to an argument between them. Keita later told Thasuku about the disagreement, explaining that they had fundamentally different philosophies. Thasuku was surprised, as he had thought Chiaki was simply a quiet, game-loving loner. Keita explained that although he and Chiaki had been very close at first, Chiaki was modest and felt more like an equal friend than someone intimidating. Thasuku asked what had caused the argument. Keita felt strongly that games did not need overly cute characters to be enjoyable. Thasuku was surprised that Keita could get so upset over something that seemed trivial, but for Keita, discussions about games were something he took seriously. Thasuku suggested that it would be better for them to talk things out calmly. Thasuku tried to bring Keita and Chiaki together to resolve the minor conflict, but both of them stubbornly held on to their own opinions. Chiaki argued that if the Japanese game industry focused too much on cute characters, while overseas games emphasized storytelling and gameplay mechanics, it was obvious which approach felt stronger to her. In the heat of the moment, Chiaki made a sarcastic remark about Keita's narrow perspective, and Keita responded with an equally childish comment about Chiaki's appearance. Thasuku could not understand why the two of them could not get along despite being so similar. Chiaki softened when Thasuku stepped in to calm them down. Seeing this, Keita questioned why Chiaki admired cool guys but showed no appreciation for cute aesthetics in general. Chiaki denied that interpretation, and Thasuku reminded both of them that criticizing someone's appearance was not appropriate behavior. Thasuku then asked how far their discussion about Aegis VII had gone. As expected, once they started talking about Aegis VII again, both Keita and Chiaki became deeply engaged, enthusiastically exchanging opinions about the game. At first, they agreed on many points, but once their differing interests surfaced again, they fell back into another argument. Thasuku tried to stop them, confused about how the conversation had spiraled once more. Keita commented that both of them were game-loving loners with strong egos, which made it difficult for either of them to compromise when it came to games. Chiaki added that for people like them, there were clear boundaries that should not be crossed in discussions about games. Thasuku realized that the two of them were truly difficult to handle. At that moment, Keita sensed an intense and unsettling presence coming from Aguri. Thasuku decided to end the meeting and apologize for calling Chiaki all the way to his classroom. He admitted that he had enjoyed listening to their passionate discussion about games. Thasuku told Chiaki not to worry about the earlier comment regarding her messy hair, adding that he personally liked girls with slightly untidy hair. Chiaki's face turned red when she heard that. Aguri's presence became even more intimidating, and Keita felt certain that Aguri had misunderstood Thasuku's intentions. Thasuku encouraged Chiaki to become closer friends with Keita since they shared the same hobby. Keita realized that it was understandable for Aguri to misinterpret the situation, as from a distance it looked like Thasuku was getting close to another girl. Thasuku admitted that he liked Aguri's hair, but he also felt that Chiaki suited short hair better. He even mentioned that Chiaki was actually quite cute. Chiaki became flustered upon hearing this. Keita, on the other hand, grew worried that this might lead to a conflict between Thasuku and Aguri if Aguri overheard everything. At that point, Aguri looked as though she was on the verge of losing consciousness after hearing it all. At that moment, Karayan and Ichi were peeking at them from a window. Karayan felt extremely curious about what kind of relationship existed between Chiaki and Keita. Ichi did not know for sure, but it looked like Chiaki and Keita were fairly close. Karayan felt irritated at the thought that they might actually have a close relationship. That night, Thasuku and Aguri walked home together. Thasuku found it strange because Aguri was usually talkative when they walked together, yet she remained quiet the entire time. Suddenly, Aguri asked what Thasuku had been doing in the classroom earlier that day. Thasuku was surprised to realize that Aguri had seen him. He hesitated for a moment before explaining and eventually admitted that he had been trying to mediate between Chiaki and Keita. Aguri appeared visibly upset and asked why Thasuku had been spending so much time with Keita lately. Thasuku explained that he and Keita had only been talking about games. That same night, Keita exchanged messages discussing a game novel. The next day at school, students were buzzing about a beautiful girl who had suddenly appeared on campus. Thasuku wondered whether this girl could really be prettier than Karayan. Before long, Keita arrived and greeted him. Thasuku had a feeling that Keita wanted to say something. Keita seemed worried and asked whether Aguri had said anything to Thasuku while they were walking home. Thasuku said that Aguri had acted normally. Thasuku found it strange that Keita was concerned about Aguri, considering they did not even know each other. Not long after that, a short-haired girl approached them. All the students stared at her, but Thasuku did not recognize her at first. At that moment, Aguri walked over to Thasuku. Keita referred to the short-haired girl with a joking nickname related to dried seaweed. That was when Thasuku finally realized that the girl was Chiaki. Thasuku had previously given Chiaki a few suggestions about her appearance, but he never expected such a dramatic change. Chiaki looked uneasy and wondered whether her new look seemed unpleasant, but Thasuku had always thought that Chiaki was cute from the very beginning. Unexpectedly, Aguri overheard Thasuku praising Chiaki as cute. Keita noticed Aguri walking away and immediately ran after her. Meanwhile, Chiaki told Thasuku that after changing her appearance, even her own family had trouble recognizing her. Thasuku said that the new look suited Chiaki very well, which made Chiaki smile happily. Thasuku then looked around for Keita, and Chiaki informed him that Keita had run off while calling out Aguri's name. Elsewhere, Keita still had not found Aguri when he ran into Karayan. Karayan suddenly apologized for the misunderstanding that had happened the day before. Keita did not understand what Karayan was referring to. He then asked whether Karayan had seen a cute and stylish girl earlier. Karayan explained that the girl was looking gloomy near the school entrance. Karayan asked why Keita was chasing after her. Keita explained that it was related to a complicated relationship issue. Karayan could not understand why Keita had gotten involved in such a situation. Keita finally caught up to Aguri. Aguri believed that Keita was someone who was interfering and taking Thasuku away from her. Keita was confused about why he was being seen that way. He then invited Aguri to have tea together. At the cafe, Keita looked awkward because he did not know what to do next. He explained that Aguri seemed to have misunderstood the relationship between Chiaki and Thasuku. Keita reassured her that Thasuku truly cared about Aguri and even thought she had become even cuter. Aguri's expression instantly brightened, and she quickly went to order another drink. While waiting, Keita checked his phone and noticed a game event. He planned to invite Mono to join as well. Not long after that, Aguri accidentally dropped the drink on her tray when she saw Thasuku walking together with Chiaki across the street. Keita was also shocked when he noticed the same thing. One morning, Karayan began her daily activities right after waking up. She got up very early and started her day with a jog outside the house. For her, the early morning was a time for personal growth and self-reflection. Karayan was known for being very friendly toward the people around her. After finishing her morning exercise, she took a shower and continued with a morning study session. The calm atmosphere of the early hours provided the perfect environment for a busy high school student to focus on learning. After that, Karayan had breakfast and prepared herself to go to school. Most people would not realize that Karayan did not pay much attention to her appearance because she truly believed that real beauty came from within. The first thing Karayan did at school was socialize with her peers. At the shoe lockers, she greeted her friends warmly. She found a large number of letters inside her locker. Karayan lived by a principle of committing herself fully to whatever she could do in the present moment. During school breaks, she spent time with her friends and also willingly helped teachers carry equipment or prepare materials. She did not do these things simply for academic credit, but because she valued the meaningful experiences she gained from helping others. When lunchtime arrived, Karayan faced something that always made her uncomfortable, which was turning down boys who confessed their feelings to her. She believed that moments like those were her responsibility to handle directly and honestly. Even so, rejecting someone's feelings left a tight and heavy feeling in her chest. After school, Karayan headed to the Gamers Club room, where the members gathered to sharpen their skills through gaming. Karayan truly loved the tense atmosphere that filled the room when everyone was seriously focused on their roles. That evening, after returning home, she reviewed her lessons and played games to relax while also gathering new information. She then went to bed early to prepare for the next morning. That was how a bright and smooth day passed in Karayan's life. The following day, Karayan woke up from her sleep feeling unsettled. She had not expected to dream about Keita, and the dream itself left her feeling deeply embarrassed and confused. Because of that, she stayed in bed and skipped her usual jogging routine. She suddenly remembered that she had not finished her homework. She rushed to complete it in a panic, then quickly ate breakfast. After that, she hurried to get ready and fix her hair, moving so fast that she forgot to change out of her sleepwear. When she arrived at school, Karayan looked disorganized and rushed. She became extremely nervous when she saw Keita at the shoe lockers. Her face turned red, and she tried to hide so that he would not notice her. During break time, Karayan usually helped teachers carry supplies, but that day she found herself walking toward Class 2F instead. She had intentionally gone there to look for Keita. Before long, Keita noticed her presence and questioned what she was doing there. Karayan became flustered, her face heating up, and she quickly ran away. At lunchtime, she once again had to turn down a love confession from another student. The student became frustrated and asked whether Karayan already liked someone else. Hearing that question made her face turn red again, but she insisted that she had no intention of dating anyone. She felt extremely nervous even thinking about the topic of romance, and in the end, she firmly rejected the confession. After school, Karayan went to the Gamers Club room and played a fighting game match with Nina. However, Karayan could not focus at all. Nina found it strange that Karayan had been spacing out so often lately and asked what was going on with her. Karayan insisted that nothing was wrong, but admitted that her mind kept drifting toward strange thoughts. It felt similar to the moments when she first spoke with Keita at the game store, when she managed to bring him to the Gamers Club room, when Keita turned her down, when he was alone in Class 2F, and even when Keita acknowledged the value of the game club. Karayan admitted that she kept thinking about those moments over and over again. Gakuto pointed out that Karayan's sharp instincts had recently dulled and that her gaming skills had noticeably declined. Nina reminded her that her responsibility as the club president was to keep playing and lead by example. Karayan realized that she should not dwell on unimportant thoughts and needed to refocus on gaming. That night, before going to sleep, Karayan found herself hoping that Keita would come to the Gamers Club room the next day. Her face turned red again when she realized she was thinking about him. Karayan did not truly expect Keita to join the club, but she knew she would not mind welcoming him if he asked. She imagined herself guiding him and teaching him how to play games. Just thinking about that possibility filled her with quiet excitement. And so, a bright day that had slightly gone off track quietly came to an end in Karayan's life. One weekend, Karayan was walking around by herself, and her mood clearly was not in a good place. Everything started earlier when she had been playing games with Ichi in the game club room. During that time, Ichi brought up the topic of Chiaki and Keita's relationship. Karayan felt extremely annoyed, yet she could not do anything about it. She gradually realized that her gaming skills seemed to be getting worse, and she even felt like her expression looked lifeless. Karayan understood the reason behind her decline. Ever since Keita had said that enjoying the game was the most important part of playing, Karayan had begun to doubt her own playstyle. In her mind, Keita should be held responsible for that growing uncertainty. Suddenly, she heard Keita calling out to her. Karayan was startled, and her face immediately turned red when she saw him standing right in front of her. Keita greeted her politely, and Karayan responded warmly, acting as if nothing unusual was going on. She asked whether he was out shopping. Keita explained that his mother had scolded him for staying home and playing games too much, so he had decided to go outside for a walk. Karayan then suggested that they walk around together. Keita was surprised and turned her down, thinking that he was not suitable to spend a weekend like that with her. Karayan did not expect him to reject her again, and this time she refused to accept it. She stepped closer and asked why he kept refusing and whether he disliked her. Keita firmly stated that there was no way he could dislike Karayan, which caused her face to flush even more. He then admitted that he did not want to cause her trouble because of the rumors circulating around them. Karayan was taken aback and could not hide her nervous expression. Keita tried to excuse himself, but Karayan stopped him. She clarified that she was only asking to take a walk together, not to go on a date, and simply asked him to come along. Karayan brought Keita to a game store. There, Keita found a game he had been wanting for a long time. He looked genuinely happy, and Karayan had not expected him to be even more excited than she was. Noticing that Karayan kept staring at him, Keita asked what was wrong. Karayan was surprised to learn that Keita liked classic retro-style games. Keita became shy and mentioned that the game was much cheaper than the others. Karayan thought it was perfectly fine for him to like games like that, since he was still a teenager. Her reaction resembled that of an older sibling who had just discovered an unexpected hobby and did not quite know how to respond. Keita quickly purchased the game, and afterward, they continued walking together. Karayan mentioned that when two gamers went out, the destination was almost always a game center. She said that she often visited the game center whenever there was no club activity. She then asked whether Keita liked going there. Keita admitted that he had not liked going to the game center at first, but recently he had the chance to go with someone, and only then did he realize how fun it actually was. Karayan assumed that the person who went with him was Chiaki. Not long after, they arrived at the game center. Karayan pushed aside the thought that Keita frequently went there with Chiaki, telling herself that he might have gone with Tasuku instead. Keita noticed that Karayan seemed uneasy and asked about it. Karayan admitted that she felt disappointed that Keita had gone to the game center with another girl. Keita was confused, especially since Karayan herself had invited him out. They soon went inside, and Karayan planned to play games together with Keita. As they passed by the crane games, Keita said that he had not expected Karayan to be the type of person who enjoyed competing at crane machines. Karayan replied that she was not particularly interested in crane games. She began to suspect that Keita had been thinking about Chiaki the whole time, and she even imagined him playing crane games together with Chiaki and acting overly close. Feeling irritated, Karayan lightly knocked her forehead against a coin machine in frustration. Keita misunderstood and thought that Karayan wanted to play a coin game. He inserted a 500 yen coin and ended up winning a large number of coins. To Keita, Karayan looked like someone watching a teammate waste valuable resources on an unnecessary move in a game. Karayan scolded Keita for not using his observation skills from the start. At first, she had wanted to play cooperatively with him, but she decided to compete instead. To her, coin games were all about luck, and afterward, they could compete fairly in other games. Karayan viewed this match as a struggle tied to her own pride and recovery. She was determined to defeat Keita and reclaim what she felt she had lost. Keita wondered why Karayan was so fired up over a simple coin game. Karayan thought that if Keita kept complaining like that, girls would not find him appealing. Karayan asked to start their rivalry right away, and the competition lasted for 30 minutes. She was confident that she would definitely beat Keita. She wanted to begin with a coin pusher game, but the most popular seat was already taken. It seemed like that game was not suitable for earning a large number of coins in a short amount of time. Karayan did not expect to see Keita sitting at a machine with the lowest number of coins. She assumed that he had some kind of plan, but it turned out that he was genuinely a beginner. Karayan started playing her game. It felt physically draining, but she stayed motivated because she really wanted to beat Keita. After 30 minutes passed, Karayan had managed to collect a large number of coins, while Keita had not earned a single one. Keita thought he should try to do better next time, but even so, he still enjoyed the experience and considered the coin game to be fun. Karayan felt confused. Even though she had clearly won, she did not feel satisfied at all. One of Karayan's coins fell to the floor, and Keita quickly picked it up. He became interested in a horse racing game and asked Karayan for permission to use that coin. Keita immediately inserted the coin into the machine and explained that he wanted to make use of it, which was why he had treated their coin game as a kind of competition. The horse racing game began. Karayan wondered why Keita would go that far, especially since he was not the type of person who liked competing, and she believed that he usually did not care about winning or losing. Keita explained that competition made games more exciting and made winning feel more meaningful. Karayan was surprised to hear that. Keita became very enthusiastic as the horse race entered its final lap, but unfortunately, he did not win. He then noticed that Karayan had gone quiet and seemed puzzled by her reaction. After finishing their games, they went to a nearby arcade. Karayan wondered whether Keita had refused to join the game club because he disliked how the club members played games with a strong focus on winning. However, she found it strange that Keita looked frustrated when he lost and even tried to win until his very last coin. To her, it seemed odd, because she thought Keita only cared about enjoying games and should not be concerned with winning or losing. Keita admitted that he did care about those things, and that he naturally wanted to win. In his view, enjoying a game and caring about wins and losses were not separate ideas. If someone truly did not care about winning or losing at all, then they would not be able to fully enjoy the game. Keita bought a cold drink from a vending machine, and unexpectedly, he won one. He felt genuinely happy and showed it to Karain. He then gave the prize drink to her. To him, sometimes winning, sometimes losing, whether it caused excitement or not, games were still his favorite form of entertainment. Karain asked again about Keita's reason for refusing to join the game club. Keita admitted that he did not have the kind of determination needed to constantly aim for victory. Karain shared that she always got very emotional about wins and losses in games, and she wondered whether that made the game club seem silly. Keita believed that enjoying victory and regretting defeat were the strongest sensations in gaming. That was why he admired the club members who practiced extremely hard to win. He never thought they were silly. However, he felt that he personally lacked the courage to fully commit, so he would often move on to another game before becoming truly skilled at one. Hearing that made Karain feel relieved. Karain then said goodbye. Keita felt confused about why she was suddenly heading home. Karain smiled and admitted that she really wanted to play games at home. The next day, Karain played games in the club room with the other members, but to her surprise, her skills kept declining. Gakuro pointed it out, wondering why her performance had dropped so badly when she had been doing so well before. Her gameplay had become even worse than that of a beginner. Karain was on the verge of tears as she realized that every time she tried to enjoy a game, Keita's face kept popping into her mind. Feeling frustrated, she blamed Keita for distracting her thoughts. Aguri accidentally spilled the drink she was carrying after noticing Thesuku walking closely with Chiaki across the street. Keita was completely caught off guard by what he saw right in front of him. Not long before that moment, Thesuku had tried to contact both Aguri and Keita, but neither of them responded. At that time, Thesuku was on his way home with Chiaki. Chiaki wanted to bring up the topic of game development. Thesuku wondered whether Chiaki was really working on a game when there was someone else who seemed far more suitable to talk to about gaming. Chiaki admitted that she did not care about Keita at all. Shortly after, Chiaki's phone vibrated. She explained that she had just received a notification from a game and began playing it while walking alongside Thesuku. She apologized internally for needing about a minute to focus on the game. By chance, Thesuku noticed Chiaki's in-game account name Mono. After thinking about it for a moment, he suddenly realized what that name meant. Acting on impulse, he lightly held Chiaki by the shoulders to get a clearer look at the username Suki displayed on her phone. From a distance, this was the exact moment that shocked both Aguri and Keita, as their bodies appeared extremely close, giving the impression of an intimate scene. Thesuku immediately let go of Chiaki and wondered whether she recognized the name Suki. It turned out that Chiaki had been friends with Suki since she started playing the game, and she felt a sense of closeness with that account. She realized that talking with someone she had never met in person could be surprisingly enjoyable. Thesuku quickly understood the situation. He once again held Chiaki by the shoulders and loudly questioned how far the fate between Keita and Chiaki would go. Aguri lost consciousness after witnessing Thesuku holding Chiaki in such a way, while Chiaki's face turned red as she struggled to understand what Thesuku meant by fate. Thesuku then tried to understand Chiaki's opinion of Keita. Chiaki described her dislike for him by comparing it to an overexposed TV celebrity who appeared too often due to agency decisions. Thesuku continued the conversation with Chiaki near a shaved ice stand and wondered whether her dislike came from Keita's shy personality. Chiaki denied that assumption and exaggerated her stance by saying she would rather choose an extreme option than be stuck alone with him, a statement that reflected frustration rather than genuine intent. Thesuku then asked why Chiaki used the name Mono for her game account. Chiaki explained that it was a nickname derived from her mother's maiden name Mono. She also believed it was better not to use a real name while online. For that reason, she often used the name No, especially when working on game development, and she consistently used it for her projects. That reasoning perfectly matched something Keita had once said, which left Thesuku stunned. Overwhelmed, Thesuku once again questioned how far the shared fate between Keita and Chiaki truly went. Chiaki was confused by Thesuku's sudden outburst. Thesuku then remembered that Chiaki originally wanted to discuss her game development. Chiaki admitted that she still felt uncertain about how to continue her project. Thesuku could not understand how two people with so many similarities like Chiaki and Keita still had not started dating. He was curious about where their misunderstanding began, yet at the same time, he also wanted to support Karain. Thesuku began to wonder where Aguri and Keita were. He wished there were a quick solution to resolve everything. And suddenly, an idea came to mind that he believed could work perfectly. The next day, Thasuku invited Keita and Chiaki to organize a casual gathering for gamers. He knew that both of them loved games but did not feel comfortable joining a formal game club. Because of that, he wanted to create a relaxed meetup focused purely on enjoying games, which became the foundation of the gathering he envisioned. Both Keita and Chiaki were excited about the idea. Unfortunately, neither of them was willing to invite the other personally. Thasuku was baffled by how stubborn they both were. He explained that they would be involved in shared activities during the meetup, meaning they would not only talk about games but could also openly exchange opposing opinions. According to Thasuku, it was natural for people to want to express their thoughts, especially towards someone they disliked. Keita and Chiaki had no real reason to refuse. Thasuku felt satisfied after successfully drawing both of them in. They then wondered whether the gathering would involve only the three of them. Around that time, Karan was heading toward Keita's classroom. Thasuku had also invited her to join the gamers' gathering. Karan apologized for arriving late and expressed her gratitude to Thasuku for including her. She was surprised to see that Chiaki was also participating. Keita and Chiaki felt awkward because they had previously turned down Karan's invitation to join the game club. Karan reassured them that she did not take it personally. She then wondered whether the reason they refused the club and chose the gamers' gathering instead was so they could spend time together. Thasuku realized that Karan seemed to be misunderstanding the relationship between Keita and Chiaki. Unexpectedly, both Chiaki and Keita admitted that Karan's suspicion was understandable. Karan was taken aback and began to feel as though her presence at the gathering might not be necessary after all. Thasuku grew anxious, fearing that his grand plan to involve Karan in the gamers' gathering and place Keita in the middle of a romantic comedy scenario involving two charming girls was falling apart. Acting quickly, he pulled out a chair and invited Karan to sit. Karan was confused, wondering since when Thasuku had started acting so dramatically. Thasuku explained that their discussion that day was about Chiaki's next game project. Keita had only just found out that Chiaki was actually a game developer. He assumed that her games were probably boring. Only Thasuku knew that, in truth, Keita was a huge fan of the games Chiaki made. Karan had just realized that Keita and Chiaki did not seem to get along very well. Thasuku then asked what was making Chiaki feel unsure. Chiaki shared that she often created games she personally wanted to make, but they were not very popular. Her games would likely gain more attention if she played it safe and focused on public feedback, but doing that would make the process far less enjoyable for her. Thasuku asked for Keita's opinion on the matter. Honestly, Keita said that he did not really care about those concerns. Chiaki became irritated and wondered if that meant Keita was not interested in her games at all. Karan was confused by Keita's attitude, but Keita believed that what mattered most was whether the final product turned out good or not. Chiaki then questioned whether that meant Keita had no expectations for developers in general. Keita suggested that Chiaki should simply make the games she truly wanted to create. Whether they became popular or not, they would still be her own work. He felt that Chiaki should do whatever she liked, and that one day her work could become a masterpiece, or perhaps she could combine every familiar cliché into something unexpectedly fun and exciting. Chiaki was deeply moved by Keita's response. Keita apologized if his thoughts sounded shallow or unrefined. Keita then talked about a free game developer he admired. Whether that developer aimed for popularity or not, his passion and determination never faded. At that moment, Aguri was secretly watching them from outside. Keita admitted that he did not care about the mistakes Chiaki might make. Soon after, Chiaki and Keita appeared to start arguing again. Karan grew worried that they were fighting once more. Thasuku quietly mentioned that the only reason Chiaki and Keita were even able to talk like that was because of Karan. In reality, Keita really wanted to talk to Karan, so he ended up starting conversations with fellow gamers, even if things eventually turned awkward. Thasuku and Karan were standing very close to each other, close enough to cause misunderstandings. As expected, Aguri looked deeply upset. She called out to Keita, urging him to come over. Keita hurried to Aguri and apologized to Thasuku and the others because he had to leave. Chiaki was genuinely surprised to learn that Keita had a girlfriend as young as Aguri. She thought Keita actually suited Aguri quite well and mentioned that she had seen him chasing after Aguri the other day. Chiaki then left, as her bus was about to arrive. Karan and Thasuku looked confused by everything that had happened. Not long after, Karan suddenly ran out of the classroom and loudly announced that she was refusing Thasuku's invitation to the gamers' meeting. Unexpectedly, Thasuku also rushed out and declared that he wanted to withdraw from the gamers' gathering as well. Later, Aguri broke down emotionally at a cafe while sitting with Keita. She scolded him intensely, clearly overwhelmed by frustration. She was upset about how everything had turned out, especially since Keita had previously assured her that Thasuku and Chiaki had no romantic connection. that Thasuku still had feelings for her, and that Keita supported her relationship with Thasuku. Because of that reassurance and her good mood at the time, Aguri had even treated Keita to drinks. Now, she could not understand why the situation had become even more chaotic. Keita looked uncomfortable as Aguri continued expressing her anger. Aguri blamed Keita for not telling her that Chiaki was both attractive and very assertive. Keita explained that Chiaki had not behaved that way before. Aguri cried so loudly that other cafe customers began to notice them. She even reenacted what Keita had told her before, about how no matter what happened, he would make sure Thasuku came to his senses. At the time, Aguri had admired Keita for being so bold and dependable. Now, she was frustrated that Keita had ended up arranging a meeting involving both male and female gamers together. Aguri's emotions continued to spill over until a cafe staff member gently reminded them to stay calm. Both of them apologized and finally settled down, sitting quietly as the tension slowly faded. At that time, Keita also could not understand how Thasuku had ended up acting like someone who casually flirted with many people. Aguri felt that Thasuku did not seem particularly interested in her anymore. Keita wondered whether Aguri still loved Thasuku. Aguri admitted that she did still love him. Keita thought it might be better for her to look for someone who was more similar to her. Aguri laughed and called Keita silly, believing that love was something that was felt rather than clearly stated. She saw everything that had happened as an unfortunate accident, and even though it was painful and hard to reach, she continued to love Thasuku. Keita felt sorry for Aguri and promised that he would do his best to help Thasuku and Aguri get along again. Aguri thanked him and invited Keita to work hard together with her. Unfortunately, while Aguri and Keita were standing very close and holding hands, Chiaki happened to see them through the window. Keita was startled and immediately let go of Aguri's hand. He rushed outside to chase after Chiaki and explained the situation to her. Aguri could only watch from behind the glass. When Keita returned to the table, he told Aguri not to worry because he had already explained to Chiaki that Aguri was an amazing partner. Aguri became curious about what Keita had said to Chiaki. It turned out that Keita had described Aguri as the most understanding girl in the world, and that no one could compare to how cute and beautiful she was. Keita made sure that Chiaki truly understood who Aguri was. Aguri felt happy after hearing this and praised Keita, saying that he was impressive and dependable. Keita thanked her and mentioned that Chiaki's reaction seemed irritated. He believed that Chiaki was simply being overly timid. Aguri did not expect Keita to go that far, so she promised that she would do her best to help Chiaki talk properly with Karain, even if it meant turning down Thasuku's invitations. Keita expressed his gratitude, and they agreed to cooperate with each other for mutual benefit. Meanwhile, Thasuku was spending time at a game center. He tried to push away his lingering suspicions about the relationship between Keita and Aguri, believing that Keita was simply being kind in chatting with her. Thasuku then realized that the two of them actually had some similarities and might even be compatible. He attempted to drive away those negative thoughts, but he could not ignore the fact that Aguri had fallen in love with the Thasuku from the past. That version of Thasuku was someone who loved playing games and seemed awkward, which made him resemble Keita quite a bit. That night, Keita was playing Golden Memories, but he kept losing. He felt confused because when he played with other characters, he could easily reach a happy ending. However, after playing 3 times with a character who reminded him of Karain, he kept ending up with a bad ending instead. The next day, Keita asked Thasuku for advice about dating simulation games, but Thasuku refused, saying that it did not count as real relationship advice. Keita asked Thasuku to see it as his attempt to learn how to talk to Karain. Thasuku firmly believed that dating games had nothing to do with real-life relationships. He suggested that Keita should focus on his actual issues with girls, and that it was time for him to approach Karain directly. Instead, Keita continued practicing conversations through dating games because he felt that his presence did not leave a strong impression on Karain. Thasuku found this strange, since Keita was already able to talk normally with Karain, Chiaki, and Aguri. Thasuku also reminded him that Keita had once played a coin game together with Karain. Keita only saw it as competition, but Thasuku considered it hanging out, which meant they were already friends. Keita then assumed that Karain was only acting friendly because she liked Thasuku. He felt insecure about being friends with her, believing that he barely mattered to her at all. However, Thasuku pointed out that Karain would never intentionally invite someone she disliked. Karain herself believed that she had only casually suggested hanging out because they happened to run into each other by chance. Thasuku began to realize that Keita was truly overthinking everything. Keita was surprised that Thasuku cared so much about his relationship matters, even though Keita himself did not think about them that deeply. Thasuku explained that it was because Keita was his friend. Keita felt touched and admitted that he was happy to be friends with Thasuku. Thasuku believed that Keita should save those heartfelt words for a girl instead. Unexpectedly, Chiaki arrived in the classroom and was shocked to see how close the two of them were. She immediately ran away. Thasuku realized that another misunderstanding had occurred and quickly chased after Chiaki. Keita was left completely confused by their behavior. Not knowing what else to do, Keita quickly called Aguri to ask for advice on how he should handle the situation. That day, Thasuku was at a cafe with Chiaki to clear up a misunderstanding about his relationship with Keita. He could not believe that things had led him to casually hanging out at a cafe like this. Chiaki asked whether Thasuku was doing okay, and he admitted that he was feeling down about how harsh the world could be sometimes. Chiaki confessed that she never expected Keita to have such an adorable girlfriend. She also admitted that remembering how Keita openly showed off his girlfriend still annoyed her. Thasuku asked whether Chiaki was sure she had not misunderstood what she heard. Chiaki explained that it was her first time seeing a guy who talked about his girlfriend so openly without any hesitation. Thasuku felt uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation and decided to ask Chiaki about her opinion of Karain. At that moment, Keita and Aguri quietly passed by them. Chiaki said that she rarely talked with Karain and sometimes felt insignificant when comparing herself to her. Thasuku realized that Chiaki and Keita actually shared the same perspective. Chiaki admitted that she admired Karain and hoped they could become close someday. Thasuku thought to himself that Chiaki and Keita really would make a good couple because they were so similar. Chiaki then asked for Thasuku's opinion about Karain. Thasuku felt that Karain seemed like an extraordinary girl, and hearing that made Chiaki even more convinced that Thasuku had feelings for her. Thasuku tried to cheer Chiaki up and told her that she was a wonderful woman who almost matched Karain. Without thinking, Thasuku gently patted Chiaki on the head. Chiaki reacted with surprise and panic when he did that. Thasuku immediately apologized and explained that he was simply used to spending time with girls who were physically expressive in a friendly way. Meanwhile, Keita and Aguri had overheard everything. Keita was shocked and thought Thasuku had gone too far by praising Karain so highly and casually touching Chiaki's head. Aguri was still stunned by what she had witnessed. Even so, she felt relieved that she had seen the situation with her own eyes. And despite everything, she still cared deeply about Thasuku. Both Aguri and Keita were unsure about what they should do next. Aguri then asked about Keita's desire to get closer to Karain. She explained how she used to struggle socially before becoming who she was now. Keita unintentionally made a thoughtless comment about how Aguri's efforts once led to misunderstandings in her past relationship. Feeling hurt by his words, Aguri lightly pinched Keita's cheek to express her frustration. She told him that no matter how much he tried to polish himself on the surface, that alone would never be enough. Keita argued that in dating games, raising stats was all it took to move forward. Aguri reminded him that real life was not a game, even if some games reflected parts of reality. According to Aguri, human relationships were not determined by levels, and people could not instantly become friends just by boosting charisma. In real life, 1 + 1 did not equal 2, but rather something deeper that grew over time. She explained that Keita and Karain needed to become friends first, and Keita needed to be recognized as a genuine person by Karain before anything else. Aguri believed the very first step was simply having a conversation. Keita then asked how Aguri had confessed her feelings to Thasuku in the past. Aguri became shy and admitted that she straightforwardly asked Thasuku to date her. There had once been a rumor that Thasuku liked girls who acted a little clumsy, and although that rumor was not true, Aguri had still spoken honestly from her heart. Keita was surprised by how simple it sounded, but Aguri explained that the most precious feelings were often the simplest because they came directly from the heart. That was why, if Keita truly wanted to be friends with Karain, he should express his feelings sincerely. Aguri believed that Keita could definitely do it. Keita said that he would try the next day, and Aguri was happy to hear his answer. Both of them looked confident and encouraged each other. The next day, as usual, Karain was politely turning down someone's romantic feelings. She explained that she had no intention of dating and believed it was better to remain friends than risk a failed relationship. She made it clear that her decision was not about social differences, and she calmly declined the student's feelings. The student looked frustrated and walked away. Eiichi observed everything from above. Later, in the club room, Karain explained the situation to Eiichi. She believed that rejection needed to be clear and firm, without leaving room for misunderstanding, because being too gentle could unintentionally give false hope. Eiichi finally understood why Karain had rejected the student so decisively. He suspected that this had become a common situation for her. Eiichi suggested that Karain should let her true feelings guide her more and be even more honest, since she often prioritized her ideals over her emotions in both good and bad situations. He encouraged her to better explain her intentions. He did this intentionally so that Karayan could grow closer to Keita. Karayan realized that she might need to stop rejecting everything without giving herself room to connect with others. That night, Keita was playing a dating simulation game. At that point in the story, the character Flora, whom he had chosen, was being harassed by a group of troublemakers. The game presented two options: stepping in to help her or running away. Keita ended up choosing to escape, and as a result, he received a bad ending. He felt confused because he had already played the game 10 times, yet he kept losing every single time. He had tried every possible option, but nothing worked. Keita started to think that this might be a sign that he would never be compatible with someone like Karayan. Not long after that, Agori sent him a message. She reminded Keita to get enough sleep, explaining that people would notice the tired look on his face. She also asked him not to stay up late playing games. Thasuku also messaged him, saying that he knew about Keita's plan to meet Karayan the next day. Thasuku even mentioned that he was thinking about gathering people around and wanted Keita to do it in front of everyone. He believed that doing so would earn Keita respect, but if things went badly, Keita might end up being avoided instead. Keita felt irritated, but he chose not to respond harshly to someone who had done so much for him. Soon after, Mono sent him a message as well, cheering him on for the game event happening the next day. Keita felt certain that Mono was probably a shy and socially awkward person. He felt deeply grateful to Agori, Thasuku, and Mono for continuing to support and encourage him. Keita then decided to try the dating game one more time. He began to think that maybe he needed to be kind to everyone, not just to Flora. This time he chose options that seemed like they would make everyone happy. Eventually, Flora confessed her feelings to him. Keita was genuinely surprised that she finally did. Through that ending, he realized the importance of treating everyone with kindness and respect. In the end, he managed to clear the game with a happy ending. He understood that no matter what, he should never be unkind to people who had been good to him. Keita admitted to himself that his success in the dating game with Flora was thanks to Agori, Thasuku, and Mono. He felt truly happy, and even if Karayan ended up rejecting him, he already felt satisfied and at peace. The next day, Mika and Masaya asked Thasuku about Keita's plan to meet Karayan. Thasuku pretended not to know anything, even though he was the one who had spread the rumor in the first place. Later, Thasuku and Keita went to the restroom together. Thasuku explained that he had intentionally gathered people so that they would recognize and appreciate Keita. Keita told him that his true intention was not to start a special relationship with Karayan. Thasuku apologized for acting on his own without fully explaining things and said he was willing to disperse the crowd if Keita wanted him to. Keita admitted that he was actually happy that Thasuku had gone that far for his sake. According to Thasuku, everything he did was for Keita's future. He believed that if Karayan successfully became Keita's friend, people might find it strange to see the two of them walking together alone. That was why he thought it would be better if others were around to witness Keita asking Karayan to be friends. He felt it would be even more effective if those people were known for talking a lot and spreading information. Thasuku then asked which place would meet those conditions and help Keita feel the most at ease. The answer was Classroom 2F after school, when many students usually gathered there. Keita thought Thasuku was impressive for being so perceptive about situations like this. Meanwhile, during class, Agori was lost in thought about the relationships among her friends. She believed that Keita simply admired Karayan, and that Karayan did not dislike Keita either. She also saw Keita and herself as close friends. At the same time, she realized that she had strong feelings for Thasuku. However, there was a possibility that Thasuku liked Karayan, and that thought made Agori feel sad. When it came to Chiaki, even though Keita claimed that he disliked her, they were actually quite close. It was also obvious that Chiaki liked Thasuku, while Thasuku seemed to have feelings for Chiaki as well. All of this frustration built up inside Agori, overwhelming her emotions. She suddenly realized that Chiaki reminded her a lot of herself back when she was still awkward and inexperienced. Agori then remembered Keita's plan to invite someone to talk after school. She felt that this situation might finally reveal Thasuku's true feelings. At the same time, Chiaki was thinking about Keita's intention to talk with Karayan after school. She found it strange, especially because she believed Keita was already in a relationship with Agori. Chiaki had also heard a rumor that Agori was dating Thasuku, which made her wonder if Agori's feelings were not being returned. She started to think that Keita might be misunderstanding the situation. From her perspective, it did not make sense for Keita to reach out to Karayan if he already had Agori by his side. Chiaki convinced herself that Agori might simply be relying on Karayan for convenience rather than emotional reasons. Because of that, Chiaki felt that she needed to help Keita see the situation more clearly and understand what was really happening around him. At the same time, Thasuku was thinking about how guilty he felt for using Keita, even though he had a hidden motive of his own. He was sure that Aguri would show up at the event, and he planned to quietly watch her reaction from the sidelines. He believed that Aguri was dating Keita as well. Thasuku even laughed to himself while imagining Aguri being completely unaware that she was being observed by him, especially when everyone's attention would be focused on Karayan and Keita. If Aguri and Keita were truly just friends, then Aguri should have been happy to see Keita getting along with Karayan. But if that was not the case, then it would mean Aguri had been acting dishonestly toward Keita. At the same time, Aguri was thinking that if Thasuku really liked Karayan, then he would not feel comfortable seeing Karayan get close to Keita. And if Chiaki were actually Thasuku's true interest, then Thasuku would have been paying attention to Chiaki the entire time. Meanwhile, Chiaki was convinced that Keita asking Karayan to meet and become friends was an SOS signal, a sign that he still could not move on from Aguri. Chiaki decided to go to Class 2F to clarify the situation and find out the truth about Aguri. On the other hand, Thasuku thought that if Aguri really was dating Keita, then the whole event would turn out to be nothing more than a harmless joke. If Aguri ended up looking at him with guilt, it would become the worst possible outcome, but Thasuku was confident that something like that would never happen. Meanwhile, Aguri worried about the possibility of Thasuku noticing her reaction, but she felt brave enough to check on her own relationship situation directly while everyone was gathered. In her mind, she labeled Thasuku as someone who tended to play with people's feelings, even though she did not want to believe that about him. Aguri felt pleased with herself, thinking she had come up with a clever way to handle the complicated situation in her relationship. At the same time, Chiaki was worried that if Aguri and Thasuku exchanged guilty looks, it would mean they were panicking over Keita's SOS signal. Still, she believed things would not spiral out of control that badly. Thasuku, Aguri, and Chiaki were all eagerly waiting for the after-school event, convinced that it would finally answer all of their questions. Karayan, meanwhile, could not stop thinking about why Keita had asked to meet her after school. She suspected that Keita might be planning to end their friendship, perhaps because he wanted to enjoy gaming in peace and saw her as a distraction. Considering how shy Keita was, she thought he might not want to be the center of attention because of her. Even so, Karayan tried to stay strong while facing such an uncomfortable possibility. Once the school day ended, Thasuku, Aguri, and Chiaki hurried off to wait for the event. Karayan walked toward Class 2F, mentally preparing herself for the worst. She resolved to answer Keita honestly and sincerely, no matter what he asked. She believed it would be best to express her true feelings right away. When Karayan arrived and entered Class 2F, she found Keita there, visibly nervous at the sight of her. Thasuku silently encouraged him from the side. Soon after, Aguri and Chiaki arrived as well, and Keita was surprised that everyone had come just for him. With Karayan standing right in front of him, Keita greeted her, clearly tense and struggling to gather his thoughts. Karayan signaled that he should continue, showing that she was ready to hear what he had to say. Keita assumed that she was already prepared to turn him down. As he finally began, Thasuku noticed that Aguri was looking at him with guilt, which made him believe even more strongly that Aguri and Keita were indeed a couple, and that he himself was in the wrong. At the same moment, Aguri was shocked to realize that Thasuku had noticed her guilty expression, taking it as proof that he had questionable intentions toward Karayan all along. Meanwhile, Chiaki saw the guilty exchange of looks between Thasuku and Aguri and concluded that they were already involved with each other, which explained why they seemed so tense about what Keita was about to say. Karayan hoped she could respond honestly, since this situation felt different from the usual confessions she turned down. Even if the outcome was rejection, she wanted to stay true to her feelings. As Keita tried to express himself, countless moments flashed through his mind. In the end, he asked Karayan to become his girlfriend, and Karayan accepted with genuine happiness. Keita then realized that his earlier words had simply come out wrong, and everyone around them reacted with loud cheers and excitement. One morning, Keita headed to school by bus while casually playing his dating game on his phone. A group of students sitting in the back seats were quietly talking about him. They could not believe that someone like Keita was actually dating a beautiful blonde girl like Karayan. At school, Keita chatted with Thasuku in the classroom. Thasuku admitted that he never expected Keita to suddenly become the center of attention. Keita said that everything happening now was Thasuku's fault. Thasuku acknowledged it and apologized, though he never thought Keita would go all in and ask Karayan out so seriously. Up until that moment, Keita still believed that Karayan originally had feelings for Thasuku. Thasuku then admitted that he felt confused about how to talk to Aguri after everything that had happened. Keita asked what was going on with Aguri. Thasuku was surprised that Keita even asked, considering that the guy Aguri liked was now dating Karayan. Hearing that left Keita genuinely shocked. Thasuku decided to return to his seat without continuing the conversation. After hearing Thasuku's words, Keita became even more convinced that Thasuku might really be hiding something, which explained why Thasuku did not know how to face Aguri. Later, while in the restroom, Keita found himself thinking about how Thasuku and Karayan could easily spend time together at school, since everyone assumed Karayan was Keita's girlfriend. That thought made him wonder whether it might be better to take back his confession, since everything had felt wrong from the very beginning. When he left the restroom, Keita accidentally bumped into Karayan, who was passing by. Karayan's face immediately turned red and she looked nervous, though she managed to calm herself down quickly. She asked if Keita was okay, noticing how pale he looked. Keita apologized, said that he was in a hurry, and walked away. Deep down, Keita felt extremely guilty toward Karayan. As Keita walked through the hallway, Chiaki suddenly called out to him and brought up what had happened the day before. Chiaki believed that Karayan had acted deliberately and that the incident was some kind of divine intervention. In Chiaki's view, Keita had unknowingly sent a warning to a so-called little devil who was targeting him. Keita became even more confused about who Chiaki was referring to. Chiaki explained that even though she and Keita were rivals, she had no intention of hurting him. She reminded him that Aguri was indeed a good girl, but she was not his girlfriend. Keita already understood that, yet Chiaki strangely thought that Keita had gone surprisingly far and even admired how quickly he seemed to move on emotionally. After school, Keita went to a cafe with Aguri. Aguri wore an annoyed expression, and Keita sincerely apologized to her. Aguri laughed and admitted that she had only been joking. She confessed that she could not calm herself after realizing that Thasuku might really be unfaithful. Keita asked whether Aguri was jumping to conclusions just from seeing Thasuku's guilty expression. Aguri remained suspicious because Thasuku had looked visibly uncomfortable when facing his own girlfriend. She mentioned that ever since meeting Keita, her relationship with Thasuku had gradually declined. Keita felt guilty, as if he was bringing bad luck to others, though it was true that Karayan and Chiaki had both met Thasuku because of him. Keita explained that everything had originally been Thasuku's idea, and that it was possible Thasuku was using him as a cover. Aguri believed that Thasuku genuinely saw Keita as a close friend, but Keita felt that Thasuku might simply be taking advantage of him. Aguri asked Keita not to keep thinking negatively. She then asked what Keita planned to do about his relationship with Karayan. Keita thought that he probably needed to end it properly and respectfully. Aguri said that what mattered most was Keita's own feelings and asked whether he was willing to let others decide something so important in his life. Keita asked Aguri to forget that he had ever asked for her advice. Only then did Aguri realize the taste of the drink she had ordered, as she had not noticed it at all until that moment. She commented that love problems were truly terrifying. After that, they said goodbye and went home. The next day, Karayan went up to the rooftop after being contacted by Keita. She looked anxious as she wondered why Keita had asked her to meet there and whether it had something to do with their relationship. Karayan tried to calm herself because she did not want Keita to see her panic. She even worried that her confession the day before might have been a mistake, since everything had felt strange from the start. She did not understand why Keita had suddenly confessed to her in the first place, and she could not bring herself to look at him. Before long, Keita arrived. He asked whether Karayan hated him, noticing that she would not meet his gaze. Instead, Karayan asked if Keita wanted to end their relationship. She was convinced that Keita was unhappy with it, as it showed clearly on his face. Karayan believed that Keita was planning to take back his words and admitted that she herself had been caught up in the moment back then. Keita expressed how relieved he was to learn that Karayan did not hate him. Karayan admitted that she had never hated him at all, and Keita felt deeply grateful. Unexpectedly, Keita then asked Karayan out on a date. Karayan was shocked and quickly turned around to look at him. Keita smiled and asked her to choose the time and place. Karayan still did not fully understand the invitation, so Keita clarified that he was asking her out because they were dating. Karayan's face turned red, and she looked nervous. Keita realized that there would likely be many challenges ahead, since he was not used to being in the spotlight and was fully aware that he could not compare himself to Thasuku. He thought that he might lose in the end, but as a gamer, quitting before knowing the outcome would be the wrong move. Those thoughts made Karayan blush even more. She tried to calm herself and accepted Keita's invitation, reminding herself that they were indeed a couple. Keita apologized for taking so long to ask her out, admitting that he lacked experience in relationships. Karayan warned him not to cross any boundaries, explaining that dating had its own order and pace. Keita agreed and promised to remember her words. After that, they went their separate ways. Their conversation still felt stiff, and Karayan realized that this was not the kind of dating experience she had imagined. She still could not control her tone, as being close to Keita only made her feel more nervous. When the day of the date arrived, Karayan and Keita went to a round stadium, a place known as a popular hangout for trendy students. They headed inside right away and discovered that there was a game center on the first floor. Keita suggested starting their date by playing some games together. He looked a bit nervous because he was not sure which game they should try first. Karayan smiled and suggested that they take a look around first, and then choose whatever looked fun. They ended up playing several kinds of sports games, including table tennis, darts, billiards, and bowling. After that, they relaxed at a cafe while chatting. Karayan admitted that she had never had that much fun during physical education classes. Keita thought it might be because there was a big difference between doing something as an obligation and doing it voluntarily. Karayan then asked where they should go next. Keita opened a brochure and tried to cover up the map of the pool area, saying that the only place left was the game center. Karayan noticed that there was a large pool in the facility and felt interested in trying it out. She believed that there had to be a place to rent swimwear. Keita did not agree right away, which made Karayan wonder if he might not want to see her in a swimsuit. Keita looked flustered and went on to explain at length that he simply did not want them to attract too much attention from other people. Karayan then wondered if Keita did not want to go on a date at the pool at all. In the end, Keita agreed to go to the pool. He waited by the poolside while Karayan changed. Not long after, Karayan appeared in her swimsuit and asked what Keita thought of how she looked. Keita was completely captivated and so surprised that he ended up thanking her when asked for his opinion. He said that the swimsuit suited her very well and admitted that he was so taken aback that he did not know what else to say. Karayan's face turned red when she heard the compliment. At that moment, they noticed another couple happily playing in the water. Karayan suggested that they try playing like that too, but she wanted to set some rules for their water game. The attacker was only allowed to splash water once per turn. Turns would switch after each splash, or after 10 seconds passed, and the winner would be the one who managed to get the other person's hair wet first. Keita realized that Karayan could actually be quite tricky. They got ready to start the game. Karayan had the first turn to splash water, but Keita managed to dodge it. When it was Keita's turn, he deliberately stalled to confuse his opponent and then aimed a splash at Karayan. However, Karayan was good at reading the situation and avoided it quickly. Keita was shocked by her reaction, and in the moment he let his guard down, Karayan managed to splash plenty of water onto his hair. Keita admitted his defeat, and Karayan laughed at him. Unfortunately, they could not quite match the carefree energy of the other couple playing in the pool. Keita felt that they might be better suited to going back to the game center. He and Karayan soon walked away. Before long, they spotted Chiaki, who was being bothered by two young men. Chiaki, clearly frightened, was relieved to see Keita and immediately ran over to him for safety. She was trembling because she felt scared by the attention from those two men. Mistaking Keita for Chiaki's boyfriend, the two men backed off and left. Keita was startled when he suddenly realized that he was actually there with Karayan. Chiaki, on the other hand, acted normally and greeted Karayan. At that moment, Karayan's face showed clear annoyance. Keita made it clear to Chiaki that he was on a date at that time, but Chiaki remained completely unfazed. Keita then wondered how long Chiaki was planning to keep holding onto his arm. Chiaki remarked that she probably should not interfere with their relationship, even if it was a fake one. Karayan, already irritated, quickly spoke up to stop Chiaki. The three of them then sat down to talk. Karayan asked why Chiaki had come to that place that day. Chiaki explained that she had been invited by her younger sister, but they had gotten separated. She described her younger sister as very sweet, which made her feel worried. Karayan offered to help look for her, believing that Chiaki's sister was probably searching for Chiaki as well. Chiaki was happy that Karayan wanted to help, and Keita said that he was not in any rush. Chiaki felt touched that Keita was willing to help too, but unexpectedly, Karayan stopped him. She told Keita to wait for her at the game center on the first floor. Hearing that, Keita obeyed immediately, like a soldier following orders from a commander. Chiaki could not understand what kind of dating style the two of them were practicing. Keita was waiting alone at the game center when Karayan and Chiaki showed up a short while later. Keita wondered why Chiaki had come along with them. Karayan quickly headed straight to the arcade machines because she could not wait to start playing. Chiaki mentioned that her younger sister had probably gone home earlier. She then questioned whether Keita really understood why Karayan was willing to put in the effort to go on a date with him, and she felt confident that Keita had not done anything special yet to make Karayan happy. Keita had no idea what Chiaki was trying to imply. Chiaki explained that she had given Karayan a chance to feel satisfied through a video game competition. Keita became even more confused by what Chiaki was saying, but he assumed that Chiaki simply wanted to play games. Unexpectedly, Karayan turned out to be genuinely interested in having a gaming competition. They chose a car racing game, and Karayan was confident that it would be exciting to turn into a match. It was Chiaki's first time playing the arcade version of the game, but she still believed she would not lose to Keita. Once the game started, Keita seemed to struggle more than expected. It turned out that he had selected a hard difficulty mode for their very first match. The three of them enjoyed the game immensely, and as it went on, the tension continued to rise. Several younger kids nearby watched them with excitement. Unfortunately, halfway through the race, Keita ended up receiving a random in-game item that could dramatically change the outcome. Karayan explained that the item had an equal chance of causing chaos around the track or backfiring on the user. As the finish line came into view, Karayan and Chiaki felt certain that they would win. Unexpectedly, when Keita's car moved close to both of theirs, he activated the item, completely shaking up the final moments of the race. After the date, Karayan and Keita rode the bus together. Karayan suddenly laughed about the unusual way Keita had lost earlier. Keita wondered if Karayan was upset because he was not very skilled at playing that game. Karayan felt there was no reason to be angry, since what mattered most was that everyone there had enjoyed themselves, and she actually liked Keita more because of that. Keita admitted that he admired how Karayan never went easy on him. Karayan felt that it did not really sound like a compliment. Keita explained that if Karayan had held back and let him win, he probably would not have enjoyed it as much. Karayan admitted that she did not know how to do anything halfway and always played seriously. Keita understood that about her, and that was exactly why he liked that side of Karayan. He then wondered whether Karayan had tried the newly released game Fire Tactics. Karayan became visibly excited and eagerly talked about the game together with Keita. Konoha was the student council president at Heikyu High School and was also known as an exemplary student. She had strong abilities in both academics and extracurricular activities, yet she never managed to take the #1 spot because someone even more outstanding always claimed it first. She never even expected to become the student council president. At first, she felt genuinely happy, but that happiness did not last long. Deep down, Konoha felt intense jealousy toward Karayan, who seemed perfect and appeared to have everything. That day, Konoha held a meeting with the student council members. After the meeting ended, everyone went home, leaving Konoha alone in the room. She felt oddly content as she remained there, taking in the lingering atmosphere left behind on the benches. Konoha felt pleased knowing that all the student council members were kind and charming girls. Not long after, she put on her disguise and left the school. At school, Konoha appeared to be an innocent and proper student council president, but in reality, she was deeply passionate about video games, especially niche and story-driven titles. She felt excited while browsing and buying several games. After picking up a few, her attention was drawn to a game called Golden Memories. That title reminded her of a conversation she once overheard at school, where students said that if Karayan attended Heikyu High School, Karayan would definitely have become the student council president instead. Feeling conflicted, Konoha put the game back on the shelf and walked toward the Rainbow Court game section, which felt more fitting for her. Not long after, she noticed Ichi and Keita chatting nearby. She realized that they were wearing the Otobuki High School uniform, the same school Karayan attended. Konoha's heart skipped a beat when she saw Ichi, who looked very handsome to her, while Keita, in her opinion, had the kind of face often seen on typical simulation game protagonists. She almost got caught sneaking glances at them by Keita. At that moment, Ichi was asking Keita for advice about games. Keita felt embarrassed about recommending anything and hesitated, even though Ichi reassured him that his taste would not be judged. Keita admitted that he did not have any specific recommendations and had never really suggested games to others before. Hearing this, Konoha thought that Keita seemed indecisive. Keita then asked whether there was any game that caught Ichi's interest. Ichi showed a title that was said to be popular among online users. From Konoha's perspective, the game was decent but still fairly ordinary. Unexpectedly, Keita described it as a masterpiece and mentioned that he had even stayed up late for a whole week to finish it. That reaction sparked Ichi's interest in buying it. However, Keita suddenly said that he was not actually recommending the game, leaving Konoha surprised by how troublesome Keita could be. Keita then asked whether Ichi was looking for a dating simulation game and walked toward a shelf he wanted to recommend. Konoha panicked as Keita moved closer to her. It turned out that Keita was pointing to Rainbow Court. Ichi had never heard of the game before, since it was not very popular. Ichi wondered why Keita would recommend it, and Keita explained that he personally liked the game. Keita encouraged Ichi to choose freely, explaining that he simply wanted to highlight games that rarely received attention. He said that Rainbow Court was a good game, even though it was often criticized for having an old-fashioned visual style. In Keita's view, he recommended it because Ichi seemed like someone who would root for characters who kept struggling in the shadows rather than those who already had everything. Keita apologized for sounding like an expert, but he admitted that Rainbow Court was genuinely one of his top 3 favorite games. To Konoha's surprise, she felt deeply moved after hearing Keita's thoughts. In the end, Ichi chose the game recommended by Keita. Later at home, Konoha was relaxing when her older sister suddenly appeared and noticed the Rainbow Court game she had just bought. Konoha claimed that she had only borrowed it from a friend, but her sister did not believe her because the price label was still attached. It turned out that Konoha's older sister was Chiaki. Tasuku imagined a future where Keita and Aguri got married after graduating. In that vision, all their friends congratulated them and celebrated the beginning of their new life together. In reality, however, everyone was dealing with their own problems. Chiaki did not have a stable job and refused to congratulate someone she considered a rival. Tasuku and Karain had no financial issues, yet they forced polite smiles while watching the person they loved marry someone else. The wedding in Tasuku's imagination took place in a reception hall several years after their time at Otobuki High School, following a long period filled with misunderstandings. All of these events existed only in Tasuku's mind. In reality, the way to clear up those misunderstandings was to gather everyone together and talk things through. When they finally sat at the same table, the atmosphere felt awkward. Still, the meeting held great meaning, as the distance between them had grown over time, and being together again was far from easy. A few days earlier, during a gathering of the Gamers Club, Chiaki proudly showed Tasuku and Keita a board game that her mother had won from a supermarket lottery. The game was a life simulation board game that followed the ups and downs of relationships and adulthood. Chiaki really wanted to play it, but they did not have enough players. Tasuku volunteered to join and even suggested making it part of their regular gamers meeting. Chiaki asked for the gathering to be held at her house, but she admitted that she did not want Keita to come over, as the two of them clearly did not get along. Tasuku could not understand their behavior and found their tension confusing. He pointed out that the game would not be very exciting with only 3 people, so he planned to invite others. He wanted to invite Karain and felt confident that she would agree if Keita was the one who invited her. Chiaki became nervous at the thought of Karain coming to her house. In addition, Tasuku also wanted to invite Aguri, since the board game could still be played by her as well. He believed that the more people joined, the more fun the game would be. Chiaki expressed her gratitude for the suggestion, while Keita was surprised by how enthusiastic Tasuku was. In truth, Tasuku had deliberately gathered everyone together because he wanted to talk through everything that had happened and clear up the complicated 5-way romantic misunderstandings between them. However, that plan would ultimately not work out as he hoped. A few days later, the 5 of them gathered at Chiaki's house to play the board game. Everyone looked awkward and overly cautious, and even the seating arrangement showed clear distance between those who were supposed to be couples. They began playing the life simulation board game, which was played by spinning a roulette wheel and following the events written on the board. The game was easy to enjoy and allowed plenty of time for casual conversation as they played. Tasuku felt confident that his plan was finally going to succeed, but things quickly moved in a direction far from his expectations. When it was Aguri's turn to spin the roulette, the result showed that her new life path was extremely fortunate. She experienced major life milestones early on and received a bonus of 3,000 yen from each player. Tasuku found it difficult to process that outcome. Keita was confused by how quickly Aguri's life advanced in the game, but Aguri treated it as an unavoidable result and insisted that Keita had to accept responsibility within the rules of the game. At that moment, Tasuku realized that choosing this particular board game may not have been a good idea. In the game's storyline, Keita and Aguri were portrayed as dating during their school years, while Chiaki struggled to find stable work after graduating. Everyone felt unsure about how to react to these developments. After that, it was Karain's turn to spin the roulette. Her result showed that her partner had moved on, which led her to focus entirely on her career and earn an additional 50,000 yen. Karain looked amused and pleased, clearly enjoying her sudden financial success. Tasuku thought it made sense, as Karain consistently achieved the highest scores and deserved the reward. Next, it was Tasuku's turn to spin the roulette. He landed on an event that allowed him to get married in the game, along with a bonus chance to spin again. This second spin would have allowed him to force a marriage outcome based on the number he rolled. If he had landed on 1 or 2, he would have been paired with Aguri, leaving Keita on a lonely route, which was secretly what Tasuku wanted. Unfortunately for him, he rolled a 4 and ended up paired with Chiaki instead. Chiaki felt honored by the result, while Aguri fixed Tasuku with a sharp stare that made him break out in a cold sweat. When it was Chiaki's turn to spin the roulette, she landed on a number that triggered an event involving betrayal in the game's storyline. As part of the rules, compensation had to be paid, resulting in both Chiaki and Tasuku paying 5,000 yen each. At that moment, the expressions on Keita's and Aguri's faces were intimidating enough to make the atmosphere even more uncomfortable. Keita's turn came next, and he landed on an event describing an intense phase of life that resulted in unexpected expenses, forcing both him and his in-game partner to pay 6,000 yen. Aguri and Keita began talking as if they were a real married couple, arguing back and forth over the situation. Karayan quickly signaled for them to calm down and regain their composure. Finally, it was Aguri's turn to spin the roulette. Once again, both she and Keita were required to pay 6,000 yen due to another costly life event. Thesuke could hardly believe it and realized that within the game, those two had become the most unfortunate pair of all. After that, it was Karayan's turn, and she found out that her boyfriend had never really paid attention to her. Instead, he had been getting more popular with his clients and earning an extra income of 100,000 yen. Karayan was making a lot of money, yet her expression looked gloomy. Thesuke described her as a blonde girl at the peak of her career, but without a life partner, and Karayan seemed extremely tired. When it was Thesuke's turn, it turned out that he had caused serious trouble due to an inappropriate relationship within his partner's family circle, which led to major consequences. Because of that situation, he had to skip one turn. Suddenly, the sound of a door slamming echoed through the room, making Thesuke panic. He even wondered whether Chiaki's younger sister was there. Then it was Chiaki's turn. She received a result saying that her soulmate was someone else and that she felt a strong sense of destiny with that person. She became deeply swept up in romance to the point that it disrupted her work, causing her to lose 3,000 yen. Chiaki felt that the event had become confusing and unclear. Keita laughed, thinking that a feminine-style event like this did not really suit Chiaki. Up to that moment, Thesuke was still puzzled about why the board game seemed to describe all of their lives so accurately. He even wondered if he was the only one who had noticed it. Keita did not understand why Thesuke looked so restless. When it was Keita's turn, he ended up receiving the same result as Chiaki. Thesuke suddenly shouted, then admitted that he was simply overly excited about playing the game together. Keita also agreed that the game was a lot of fun and said it was his first time playing it. Next, Aguri's turn revealed that her former boyfriend had started approaching her again. Aguri blushed, and Thesuke even smiled at her. Unfortunately, Aguri's feelings toward her current partner did not waver at all. She firmly turned down her former boyfriend and continued building her family life. Thesuke looked irritated as his turn came again, but once more, Keita only received a result about reaching the peak of his career without finding a partner. Not long after that, Konoha called Chiaki over to meet her. Chiaki quickly went to see her, while Thesuke suggested that everyone take a short break. Keita admitted that he was curious about Chiaki's younger sister. Karayan turned red in annoyance, and Keita quickly explained that he was only curious about whether Chiaki's sister looked similar to Chiaki. Without realizing it, Keita addressed Karayan as commander. Soon after, Keita received a notification about a game event happening that day. Thesuke realized that Keita and Chiaki were playing the same game, and he grew worried that Keita might find out about it. Thesuke deliberately hid Chiaki's phone under the table, and thankfully, Keita did not notice. Karayan approached Keita and asked what he was playing. Keita apologized, explaining that he did not have time to explain it at the moment. Karayan understood and quietly watched Keita as he played. Thesuke felt relieved seeing Karayan and Keita growing closer. Suddenly, Aguri mentioned to Thesuke that Keita and Karayan seemed well matched. She looked very happy that their relationship was going smoothly and asked whether Thesuke thought the same. All of a sudden, Thesuke gathered his courage and asked Aguri what she thought about Keita, since it seemed like she had been spending time with him. Aguri said that she saw Keita as a younger brother who needed attention, and she felt genuinely happy about Keita's relationship with Karayan. Thesuke felt relieved and gently held Aguri's hand. Aguri was surprised by the sudden gesture, but Thesuke made it clear that there was nothing wrong with holding his girlfriend's hand. Aguri allowed it, though she felt a bit worried because Karayan was right there. Thesuke did not understand why Karayan was a concern, since it had nothing to do with her. Hearing that, Aguri finally felt at ease. Meanwhile, Keita started feeling down because the game event did not include Mono. Karayan asked who Mono really was. Keita explained that Mono was someone who always helped him in the game, and that he was truly grateful to Mono. Karayan was surprised to learn that Keita had someone so close to him in an online game. Keita felt embarrassed admitting that his online friend had become a substitute for friends in his real life. Karayan then asked whether Keita had other online friends. Keita admitted that he used different names when meeting people online, though he usually only used 2 names and chatted with just a few people. Chiaki returned and immediately approached Keita, which shocked Thesuke. At that moment, Keita explained to Karayan that he used the name Suki in the game he was currently playing and that he was close friends with Mono. He also mentioned that he used the name Yama when chatting with the game developer Nobe. Chiaki overheard everything Keita said, and Thesuke became truly worried about what might happen next. Aguri noticed how anxious Thesuke looked. Thesuke could not bear to imagine what would come next for Keita and Chiaki. At that moment, Keita admitted that Mono and No were very special and deeply valuable to him. Chiaki finally realized the truth, standing at the starting line of the worst possible moment. It was a tragic sight of a young girl whose first love had only just begun to bloom, yet had already arrived too late. Chiaki first made a game when she was in 4th grade of grade school. As a developer, she enjoyed creating games, and the players had fun and laughed while playing them. Chiaki became deeply absorbed in that simple, happy exchange of communication, and without realizing it, she turned into a diligent creator of free indie games. For Chiaki, making games was not always fun. What started as a casual hobby gradually came with emotional strain, especially when harsh and brutal comments began to pile up and throw her daily life into chaos. Still, Chiaki kept releasing her games under the name No because there was someone who always agreed with her and continuously supported her. That person used the username Yama. Chiaki was lying in the living room when she came to her senses. She looked confused, remembering that she had been playing a board game with her friends not long before. Konoha told her that her friends had already gone home. Chiaki could not recall what happened after she found out that the Yama and Suki accounts actually belonged to Keita. Chiaki then brought up a familiar scene from comics, where a delinquent-looking boy helps a dog in the rain, and the girl suddenly changes her impression of him and falls in love. Konoha understood what Chiaki was referring to, but she found it strange that Chiaki would bring up something like that. Chiaki admitted that storylines like that appeared often, but to her, they felt unfair, as if they played with people's emotions by forcing a sudden change of heart. In her view, feelings that appeared out of nowhere like that did not seem genuine. Konoha, however, could not quite follow Chiaki's line of thought. Chiaki wondered if it was wrong to stay firm in her feelings if she still disliked someone. Konoha agreed with her reasoning and asked who Chiaki was talking about. Chiaki revealed that the person was Yama. Konoha suggested that Yama might only be pretending to be nice, which upset Chiaki deeply. Instead of reacting physically, Chiaki lashed out emotionally and demanded that Konoha take back what she had said, unable to accept anyone speaking badly about Yama, even her own younger sister. Konoha apologized and acknowledged that Yama was a good person. Right after that, Chiaki suddenly lost her strength and collapsed to the floor. That night, Chiaki sat quietly in front of her computer, lost in thought. She wanted to send a message to Yama's account, but she stopped herself. She had no idea what she should do. Not long after, she went to Konoha's room. Konoha quickly opened the door after hearing the knock. Looking nervous and slightly out of breath, Chiaki asked what was going on with Konoha, noticing how flushed her face was. Konoha appeared panicked and admitted that she had just finished some light exercise, reassuring Chiaki that there was nothing suspicious going on and that she was only working on her fitness. Konoha then asked why Chiaki had come to see her. Chiaki asked if Konoha wanted anything, since she was planning to go to the convenience store. Konoha had already guessed that Chiaki wanted to buy Famitsu. Before Chiaki left, Konoha asked for permission to borrow Chiaki's laptop, explaining that her own computer was not powerful enough to play the video she wanted to watch. Chiaki asked what kind of video it was. Konoha accidentally let slip that she wanted to watch the opening movie from a game called Build that she liked. Chiaki looked confused by the term Build, so Konoha quickly clarified that she only meant a music video from a band she liked. Konoha then urged Chiaki to head out right away. Chiaki walked to the convenience store and picked out the issue of Famitsu she wanted. She was startled when she suddenly noticed Keita looking at her through the glass. Chiaki bought an ice pop and invited Keita to chat with her. She made it clear that she did not want him to misunderstand her intentions and explained that she was only buying the ice pop because she did not want to eat all of them herself. Keita agreed that eating all the ice pops alone would not be very enjoyable. Chiaki jokingly accused Keita of being a stalker because she thought he had followed her, but Keita explained that he had only come to retrieve his transit card that he had left behind and was already on his way to Chiaki's house. Keita asked whether Chiaki's phone had died. Chiaki checked and realized that her battery was indeed low. Keita found it surprising that someone could forget to charge their phone, especially since Chiaki usually played games on her phone every day. Chiaki admitted that she had intentionally turned her phone off because she was often invited out by guys during the summer, which made her check her phone less frequently. Keita did not fully believe her explanation. He pointed out that Chiaki's build and complexion did not really match someone who spent a lot of time going out during the summer. Chiaki felt irritated by his comment. Keita simply smiled and remarked that Chiaki's skin and physique were actually similar to his own. They walked together toward Chiaki's house, as Chiaki mentioned that she thought she had seen Keita's transit card at her place. She wondered out loud whether Keita usually spent his summer break just playing games at home. Keita admitted that this was normally the case, but this summer vacation felt different from usual. Chiaki was confident that Keita would end up going out and having fun with Karan. Keita confessed that he still had no idea where he wanted to go. He explained that he wanted to step out of his comfort zone because he was trying to change his life and slowly gather the courage he needed, especially for Karan. Keita realized that he often saw himself as a rather pitiful person. He acknowledged that in the past, he had also needed a lot of courage just to talk to Chiaki. Chiaki remembered that moment clearly since Keita had looked extremely nervous back then. It had been his first time talking to a girl, so his anxiety was understandable, and Chiaki had been able to sense that. Keita felt grateful that the first girl he ever talked to had been Chiaki. He explained that his nervousness disappeared the moment he saw Chiaki playing Aegis VII, and that sight had made him genuinely happy. At that moment, he felt as though he had found a true kindred spirit. Chiaki admitted that at the time, she had actually felt uncomfortable because she was being stared at so intensely by a boy who seemed overly tense. Hearing this made Keita feel apologetic, but Chiaki was thankful nonetheless, because that encounter eventually led her to meet Thasuku. When they arrived at Chiaki's house, she invited Keita to sit down. She quickly put Keita's transit card away and offered to have tea with him. Keita sat down right away, but his gaze accidentally drifted towards some laundry hanging nearby. Chiaki immediately scolded him and called out his lack of manners. Keita decided that it would be better for him to leave, but Chiaki stopped him. She told him not to worry about it and brushed off the situation in a playful way to ease the tension. Karan was about to head to a room to charge her phone and asked Keita to wait for a moment. Chiaki turned on her phone and smiled when she saw a message from an account named Suki. She felt happy because she already knew that the message had been sent by Keita. Not long after that, Keita came back and told her that the rain had suddenly started outside, so the laundry needed to be taken in. Chiaki put her phone down, but at that moment, her computer monitor accidentally turned on. She panicked and tried to block Keita's view so that he would not see the screen. In her haste, her phone slipped and landed near Keita, which only made her more flustered. When she tried to retrieve it, she lost her footing after stepping on a magazine and ended up falling. Keita became genuinely worried about her condition. Keita picked up Chiaki's phone, but she urgently asked him not to look at either her phone or her computer. It was then that Keita noticed an account named No on Chiaki's computer and an account named Mono on her phone. Chiaki explained that she had not originally planned to talk about it, but since Keita had already seen everything, she felt she needed to explain. She confirmed that, just as Keita had noticed, the Nobe account was on her computer and the Mono account was on her phone. At that moment, Konoha woke up and apologized for falling asleep in Chiaki's room. Unexpectedly, Chiaki revealed that the Mono and Yama accounts actually belonged to Konoha. Keita was completely shocked by this revelation. The next day, Keita talked with Thasuku at a cafe. He explained that Yama and Mono were actually Konoha, Chiaki's younger sister. Thasuku realized how shocking that information was and admitted that he never expected Keita and Chiaki's situation to progress so dramatically. Keita confessed that he still felt unsure since Konoha seemed unaware of the emotional weight of the situation. Thasuku was not surprised, as he already knew that Konoha was not Nobe in personality. Keita went on to describe what had happened at Chiaki's house the day before. Chiaki had not allowed him to go anywhere, and Keita believed that she was simply trying to tease him, which was why she would not let him leave. After waiting for about 10 minutes, Chiaki introduced Konoha to him. Konoha then revealed that she was both Nobe and Mono. Chiaki admitted that she had only just realized the connection herself, which explained her strange behavior at the time. Keita felt uneasy while talking with Konoha. After they introduced themselves properly, he was finally allowed to go home. Something about the whole situation did not sit right with him. Although he was happy that Mono and Nobe turned out to be the same person, he could not bring himself to believe that Konoha was truly Nobe. To him, she still felt like nothing more than Chiaki's younger sister. Keita felt cruel for not being able to say anything meaningful, even after coming face to face with someone who had treated him with such kindness. Thasuku did not find it strange that Keita felt uncertain like that, because things really had already gone the wrong way. Thasuku did not dare to tell the truth, since that was the answer Chiaki wanted for herself. Thasuku felt that he had no right to argue against it. From his point of view, everything felt excessive. Even though things seemed to be going smoothly on the surface, he did not feel genuinely happy for Keita and Karan. He almost said so out loud that he quickly left instead, saying that he had to head to work. Thasuku still wanted to support Chiaki, yet once Chiaki had made her stance clear, he felt powerless to do anything more. Unbeknownst to Thasuku, Keita had overheard him saying that he could not feel happy about Keita and Karan. This made Keita even more convinced that Thasuku truly had feelings for Karan. Keita also wondered whether there might be another girl who liked him, which was why Thasuku had chosen to support him. but that idea seemed unlikely. For the time being, Keita decided to accept reality and simply do his best. Keita walked toward a game store, intending to buy a dating simulation game called Moon Story. The game he chose had a very appealing design, with a simple logo, clean color tones, and illustrations that were minimal yet still eye-catching. When he was about to pay at the register, he unexpectedly ran into Konoha, who was buying the same game. Konoha felt genuinely irritated and wondered why she had not disguised herself that day. She could not understand why she had to run into Keita in the worst possible way. Keita was startled when he heard her reaction. Konoha explained that her earlier remark was not said as No or Yama, but as Konoha herself, and she asked Keita not to dwell too much on it. Keita then wondered whether Nobe and Yama were truly Konoha. She admitted that she was annoyed with Keita at the moment, while Nobe and Yama were not. Keita began to suspect that Konoha might have multiple sides to her personality. Konoha agreed and asked Keita to think of Nobe and herself as separate people, while still acknowledging that she was both Nobe and Mono. After that, they walked together. Konoha mentioned that she was supposed to show respect to Keita because he was 1 year older than her. Keita felt that doing so now would be awkward, since they had already gone past that stage. Konoha asked Keita not to tell anyone that she had bought a mature-rated game, and Keita agreed. Konoha then asked what Keita thought about Chiaki. Keita was surprised by the sudden change of topic, but Konoha said she was simply curious. Keita admitted that he never expected the person behind Nobe and Yama to be her younger sister. Konoha asked what Keita thought about Mono and Nobe. Keita felt happy and said that he really liked Nobe's work. This made Konoha feel frustrated with him, and she expressed her irritation in a joking, non-serious way. Before long, they ran into Chiaki. Chiaki was surprised to see Keita there so suddenly. In truth, Konoha and Chiaki had already made plans to meet at that place. Keita understood and almost mentioned the game Konoha had bought, but Konoha quickly signaled him to stop. Chiaki asked whether Keita and Konoha had grown closer. Konoha explained that she and Keita had only been talking about work. Chiaki grew curious about their conversation. Konoha said that Keita was free to talk to Chiaki about Nobe and Yama as much as he liked, since she and Chiaki did not keep secrets from each other. Keita said that he and Konoha had simply gotten to know each other a bit better. Chiaki scolded Keita for buying a mature-rated game together with Konoha. Shortly after that, Chiaki's phone suddenly rang, and she answered it right away. Keita said his goodbyes to Konoha and prepared to leave, feeling slightly surprised by how friendly Konoha suddenly seemed toward him. Just as Keita was about to walk away, they heard Chiaki repeatedly calling Thesaku's name. Konoha approached her and asked what was wrong. Chiaki explained that Thesaku had suddenly said something serious and then ended the call. According to Chiaki, Thesaku had said that everything was already decided and that he had chosen her. Keita and Konoha were both shocked, as it sounded very much like a heartfelt confession.